just a quick inventory, plus 300 on the margin. We have nearly 100 control in kind of all of these areas without even having full urbanization going on yet. We still have cities to upgrade. Market access is going to be 99.5 plus in most of this area, and so we are getting the full value out of all of these locations, which have enormous pop and are also going to have a pretty chunky dev. And this all combined is really, really kind of the basis of us just getting to play tall out of this one singular area on the map and be able to do a whole bunch of production, really set up for the future. But we don't have all of those really great production buildings until we start getting into the next age and the following one. Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about playing tall. Specifically here as the Mamluks, which I think is the best kind of choice for playing tall in the game in Europe, which for most people is the game. So for this, the main reason here is you will have the most force multipliers in the number of locations you have. We think of playing tall as playing with a small number of locations, and to that end, you're going to have really high pop locations. You're going to have locations with a lot of development that are going to be good in the long term because you have farmlands giving you more pop capacity and also more development over time. And so this will all be a very strong area. It also has rivers, which are valuable in a lot of different ways by allowing irrigation, allowing you to spin up, build tall, urbanize really, really well. And as far as areas that are in all of kind of Europe, I do think that Lower Egypt is the strongest area because you have the most of these force multipliers, allowing you to get more value out of the location. However, we pulled what people were interested in, and people were interested in seeing region, and so we are going to be playing with the entire region of Egypt, but most of the value is in the area of Egypt itself. Now, this is probably not the strongest area in the game, but if you exclude China, it is probably the second strongest and is by far the strongest in all of Europe. Probably not the strongest region, though, is Egypt because you don't get a lot of additional value other than what you got from Lower Egypt. So, to the end of kind of setting this up, we have released a bunch of these guys as subject. Subject play is going to become more important. Something that's going to become less important is proximity, because proximity has value insofar as giving you discounts on locations. The more discounts you get, the more value it has, because we're actually not spreading out that wide. We're actually not going to get that many discounts, or proportionally much less discounts. And so this is going to be kind of a little bit of an interesting tidbit. For the rules for the run, we have one exception kind of, or two exceptions, which is we are going to own locations that are market centers, because otherwise this would make our subjects choose places with really, really poor market access. And I don't think we quite want that. We might annex a subject to move a market and do stuff like this, but we are going to look to stay on no subjects. We will also frictionally own some land like this location here, which is inconsequential, I think, but we would eventually want to feed to a subject if we were to make Cilicia or Silica. I don't know how this is pronounced, but this, if we were to subjugate them, we would want to feed them because we do care about them having kind of total provinces contained. In addition to all the subject releasing, we have done something that, in theory, I think is good for most starts. As far as I could tell, for most, if not all starts, when you start a new game and you have traits, these traits just randomly roll. And so what we have done is we have re-rolled specifically until we get Architectural Visionary on our leader, to the end of helping us to kind of come out the gate swinging, trying to increase development. Development is going to be very, very important for increasing the value in our home market, which is going to contain all of our locations for as long as we play. I don't think we're going to make a secondary market here. I think we're going to just look to play out of one market. And so to that end, we do want to get cranking on the development. Also, our subjects will use dev province and this type of stuff. And so there will be a lot of development in the surrounding areas, which we are hoping to use to stimulate our economy with their demand for goods by exporting to them. But we'll see how well we can accomplish this. Now, in terms of content, Egypt is going to have some solid but not absolutely tremendous content going on. They will have, not kind of visible here, an estate privilege that will give 10% tax efficiency. This is probably their biggest economic stimulus. We will get it pretty shortly into the game, as we will see. They also get a little bit of proximity cost, which is strong, but won't be that strong for us. They get minus trade maintenance. This is going to be valuable for us because at a certain point, the way in which we will will generate value is through trade, by forcing other countries to give us their trade, because we will not be able to build more and more and more production as time goes on eventually, because our primary throttle is actually going to be building cap. After a certain point, we will just go over the cap, but it will be increasingly expensive to get returns. We also do get some early Mamluk units. These are age 1 units, so it's really not that big a deal. I don't think you want to be building infantry in age 1 anyways with current game balance, but if they are ever good, you will have a kind of nice thing going on. We will also get a little bit of a unique unit that will move a little bit faster and consume a little bit more food, or a little bit less food. I don't think that that's too big a deal, but we also start out with it, so might as well use it. In an instance where you are needing to have units shipping around food, which is not currently the case with the game's logistics, and those units will be isolated auxiliaries, having additional movement speed might actually be useful. We have a tier 2 unit that is going to be kind of overshadowed by the fact that infantry is generally not as strong, although it is one of the very few units in the entire game that gets extra combat power on its stat line. Generally speaking, this is not common. I think even more common than that, we see units that have a higher maximum strength. The amount of damage you're dealing is your strength times your your combat power, and so often you see combat power stationary and the amount go up, so that is a little bit of an interesting thing. Continuing on, efficiency of cabinet, discipline, which is quite strong. They will get an additional 2.5% discipline from some of their unique Mamluk laws. They will get additional trade range. This is going to help us out a lot because, again, most of the, or a big chunk of the value we're going to be getting is going to be from trade, creating demand with our higher tier pops for stuff like pepper, and then importing pepper, and the price difference will give us value. And so this is one way we will be able to extract value. The prosperity will also be important. The food production will also help to overcome the penalty from the town and the city, which is going to be going away next patch anyways, but the prosperity is going to be a big one. We will be able to dev up much easier, and so we will have a kind of higher ceiling in terms of the value we can get out of our locations. And so we're looking to have the absolute highest value locations possible, which we'll be doing a little bit of shenanigans for if the run is going to go late, but I don't think it will, so we'll just describe those at the end. We have a little bit of trade efficiency, trade range used overseas. I do think that this is a stackable modifier. We're also Sunni. Sunni gets an additional minus 10%, and they get a discount over land that they own as well, I think. But okay, Indian trade network is going to be nice. A little bit of artillery power. Market protection is going to help us from the perspective of forcing all of our locations into our market, but overall not that strong a modifier. If you are having a place forced into your own market, it probably is the case that you should maybe have, because it's already attracted to your markets, often I think that you would actually just prefer the additional market access and not be within your own market. But there's maybe some exceptions for this. I don't think we'll end up researching this. A little bit of maritime presence. We have the Mamluk government, which we are kind of stuck in on, which gives us additional manpower option. One of the problems with building a ton of manpower for us is going to be that it is going to strain our kind of pressured resource of the total building count, and so we can add additional manpower over what other people can do with fewer locations. This does require slaves to employ up, but it is going to be pressured in a little bit of a different way, and then this kind of a little bit of a nothing burger. And so with that said, let's also kind of emphasize one more thing other than the flashbang in our eyes, which is that we are also in the North Africa region, and we get the North Africa tech, and this is very important because we are going to can raid slaves for enemies. And so this means we can get population, and we can get population over the pop limit. And so we will be sending them back home to where we have these places that will have high development, very high development, and just cranking up the population here as much as possible. We will also have these urbanized. And so to the extent that we have additional modifiers for additional X in towns and cities, this is going to get spun up by the slaves, just increasing the population, allowing us to have more upper tier pops, creating more demand, allowing our buildings to be more profitable. But again, the thing that is eventually going to throttle us is going to be this: the maximum level of buildings we can have, which I think is a little bit of an artificial constraint, and it will be kind of our biggest enemy, I think, in this run, in addition to subject loyalty eventually kind of becoming difficult to manage as we acquire more land for ourselves subjects, but I think that expansion is going to be relatively minimal as a consequence of just not really getting too much out of this, although subject diplomacy, subject income is free gravy. It doesn't increase your slider cost, and so this is going to be something that is significant and nice. Some of our geographical considerations are a little bit less important because we're not going to be expanding. We will be gaining trade, as we had mentioned, from India, being able to bring in pepper. We will also be able to trade with the Mediterranean, which is going to be really nice for pulling institutions eventually. We can spawn institutions. I think the Mamluks is one of the best countries in the entire game for institutions, and so really being at the crossroads of the world is going to be something that we look to utilize. But getting into kind of our starting condition over here, we have some stuff we are going to want to do. We're just going to up this slider a little bit. It'll kick in on the next month tick, but we will be minting. And then we're just going to do all the maximum taxes we possibly can, with the exception of the Dhimmi, because they don't give us much money anyways, and also the tribes don't give us much money. We would prefer the bonus from satisfaction. You can see we are going to be getting some value out of diplomacy. We are selling food a little bit. I think that this will probably balance off. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there, but we have a really significant expenses, which is a feature that is kind of unique to the Mamluks. And so what we are going to be doing is we're going to be killing the sliders that are not as important. So we're going to kill the dip slider. We're actually going to pay a little bit for the stab slider as the opening, which we'll get into when we took a look at our kind of internals. We do want to generate some additional stability because we're going to need it in the time to come. But then we have this really expensive maintenance cost on our army. We do not need a standing army of this size or possibly at all, and we also have this fort maintenance. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete all of our forts. We are also going to disband all the Mamluks specifically. We will keep the heavy cav because those are going to be relatively good early on. Incidentally, your army composition gets re-rolled as you restart the game, and so you will roll in with different armies and different navies and this type of thing. Just the same number of units gets locked in, so you can, in theory, also try and re-roll a particular army that you want, but also with the building maintenance, most of it is coming from the Mamluk barracks. We're going to look to turn off all of them but one, and just keep one open. So it won't be here because there's a 3 stacked here, but whichever area is closest to the capital, which will have the most control, we will just keep that one singular Mamluk barracks on in order to kind of keep this 300 staffed up. But other than that, we will rake back, you know, another 15-ish gold from here, which is going to help for our margin, and once trades kick in, we should be in pretty good shape. Alright, so list display, we will just type in Mam or Mamluk barracks, and then we will be able to see the Mamluk barracks. What we're going to do is we're just going to close the 2 that have multiple levels, and we will be left with the 1 there. Alright, so we have 2 particularly nasty estate privileges, which is that we have Banal Lordship, which gives -5 control. This is a tremendously negative modifier. However, as far as modifiers go, this is not going to be as bad for us because we have a smaller empire, we're going to have higher average control, and with higher average control, this -5 is proportionally less. Nonetheless, we will want to get rid of it. We also have wife payments, which are going to be particularly nasty, and so we are pulled in a bunch of different directions as a consequence of this. In particular, there's something that we want to achieve, is we want to get really high communalism. We're going to use the Black Plague to help us do this, and so this is going to be something that we need to make sure that we don't have a trend against, that we're not backsliding away from it. And so the first order of business is going to be to introduce a little bit of some progress towards communalism here, which I think the best one for us is going to be religious administration. And now here's going to be the rub. For as much economic stimulus as possible, we are going to want to push spiritualist up as much as possible, and either plutocracy or aristocracy up as much as possible. The trade-off is very similar between plutocracy and aristocracy. I do think plutocracy is kind of a little bit better overall. It is difficult to push after age 4 because you are, I learned recently, no longer able to roll a parliament for having a burgher in your cabinet, which would allow you to push +10 towards plutocracy. So if you're going to push it, you have to get on it early. However, aristocracy from a theme perspective is a little bit attractive because it is giving discipline, and we're trying to play tall, and if we want our armies to be tall as well, Well, discipline is nice because a smaller army goes a much further way in this way, and so maybe thematically it makes a lot of sense to go discipline. At the same time, we actually want to decrease our spiritualist and our aristocracy early from the perspective of it taking power away from the Umara and the Ulama, who have the privileges that we don't like. So, as we mentioned, we're really kind of pulled in multiple directions in a way that is a little bit uncomfortable. At the same time, if we just push aristocracy and spiritualists now, we also have something that we want to change, which is we want to change onto an estate parliament. We want the burghers in parliament. Burghers in parliament will be good for us because we will be able to click their buttons, and we like to click their buttons. We need to, in order to do this, to get the burghers up to 20% estate power. I think they'll get there no matter what eventually, but this would be greatly accelerated by us being able to do that, and having the burghers in will be very nice for helping us to push capital economy, which we eventually will want to, and to push naval, which we will want to as well. Not so much for the proximity, because that's not going to be relevant for us very much, but rather the reason that we really want to be able to push it is because we want the trade range used overseas discount. Although, to be fair, us just being in the middle of the road, since we're not expanding out, is decent for us, and so it's maybe not so much of a priority. We also do want the ability to do the naval reforms, but they're going to proportionally not be that useful for us because we really don't have that much of the high-value coastal stuff. We have a solid amount. We have 3, 4, 5... 6, 7, 8 coastal locations that are going to be really high value. But okay, mixed bag, and there's multiple things for us to think about here. We also reloaded kind of our start because we flubbed a take, which is why our budget wasn't the way we had prepped it before, but now we have fixed all the stuff back to what we'd done before. For tech, we're going to go right for the tolerance of true faith, just look to kind of maximize satisfactions in our locations, which will increase our prosperity gain. Then we're going to grab guilds, and by then, the institution growth is probably going to be something we can benefit from, or institutions will spawn, so we will go right ahead with that. Regarding the Diplo, this is one guy who owns territory in the region that we have, and so we will improve relations with him, look to annex him, and then re-release him with the territory, just looking to gain up these 2 locations in the back. We will also do whatever royal marriages that we can, looking to marry a new kind of women so that we can continue our line as long as we can. If we get our royal kind of line bricked in some way, this will be a little bit unfortunate. This kind of can happen sometimes, but if we don't, us being able to marry more characters is going to be really valuable because we will be able to grab more and more crown power characters to produce some of these maneuvers that will give us a huge uptick in crown power. This is the benefit of monarchy. If we choose to stay on it, I think we can kind of go either way, more so with the Mamluks, because they do have a couple of modifiers where they will be able to go for this legitimacy, but I think there's probably too many trade-offs, and also we're going to need to grab, or we want to grab, the additional promotions that Theocracy has if we want to create the absolute biggest and most expensive market possible. And so, yeah. We're also really not going to use our accepted culture all that much as a resource because we're not going to be conquering areas. We're just going to accept Upper Egyptian. This will help out with the satisfaction as well. And we also do want to kind of, we want to spend the rest of this legitimacy and, or get spend down to 50 with stuff that we are interested in. Let's get started on the development right away, eyeballing kind of the satisfaction, making sure we're not dipping anyone too low. And then let's also go for treasury rights. Actually, instead of treasury rights immediately, what we will do is, I think we will, because we will otherwise forget, look to marry our heir one more time. He currently has no spouses, so we're actually going to marry a lowborn and just look to get more stuff going with regards to him in terms of having heirs. And we don't want to drip, or we do want to drip, all about the drip, but we don't want to dip below 50 legitimacy, and so that's going to be our legitimacy spend. But there's going to be a whole bunch of reforms that we're going to want to continue to hand out. I think what we're going to do is we're going to wait for the 5 years from now before slotting in government reform, because none of these are exactly what we are looking to have. We want additional progress towards some stuff. I think maybe we could go autocracy, but we don't want to do it right now before we push down aristocracy here. We must, of course, consult the Oracle, and by the Oracle I mean the market. And the market often at game start will have a bunch of demand for stuff, and then not enough supply, but still have a wonky price. So it says that fine cloth is not really productive. It will be very productive, and so we will be building some fine cloth. And then also we want to check lumber as something that we want to get a price collapse on, and masonry. The lumber is going to be a constant issue for us. The masonry is a little bit of an issue for us. And so what we're going to do with the lumber is we are going to decrease, or we are going to get rid of our carpentry starting off. So we're going to kill that 4.3 demand. And then also we are going to look to get more supply. You can see burgers are importing 6. And so we are going to want to get some more supply to fix that. But we have more than enough ducats to fix that. And so we're going to come in here and first come in and delete the carpenters. And then we will go for, or not delete, but close them. As long as they're still there, they will be providing promotions, which is something we value. But we will close them, and then we will come back with a spend that includes mason and lumber mills. Okay, so I think this here is going to be our spend down. Just a priority on the wharf to get the 25% crown power. The masonry, this should be more than enough, and also the lumber mills. Specifically, we're expanding the lumber mills with 2 heuristics. One, as close to the market as possible to get additional market access. We can build them anywhere where we have farmland, so this is fantastic. And then 2, a little bit further away from the capital in areas where we're more likely to keep it rural for an extended period of time. I guess maybe the fish is probably going to get urbanized, but these locations, we might leave these rural, and so these will be able to employ up quite nicely here as kind of the rural buildings that we will add to the locations. And then once these are built, then we will look to expand the stuff that's going to actually give us economic stimulus, because this is not discounted at all because wood is expensive, so we want to deal with that. And unlike a lot of starts, not even the urban buildings are discounted all the way for us, only getting minus 18%. We want this minus 33%, but what will happen is after we unpause and take a little bit of time, which we will do in just a moment here, we will be gaining on that front. Or sorry, we will be adding a bunch of these urban buildings, specifically fine cloth, because fine cloth's about to be expensive. This says it's not profitable, but it's a liar. It's a dirty, rotten liar. It is indeed going to be profitable. Now for this, we will also just pick the one that is going us towards spiritualist. For slave conversion, incidentally, I think that the slave conversion versus via this works, but not the one from having free available jobs. We do want the slaves to convert anyways. We would like slave output, but it's not that big a deal, and this will give us additional progress towards spiritualist being the main decision why we want to do this. So let's peel a month off and see how things are going to be looking. We get some new markets formed here. We would get new markets forming in our subjects if we were to give our subjects one of these, because they would choose to be in the Alexandria market instead. And so after we take and peel off a little bit of a month here, we can see what we're working with. We're getting a decent chunk of trade income. Actually, I think you do need 2 months in order to see what you're properly earning. And our budget is going to be +9. Mansa Musa gives us kind of just a little bit of inflation, which, you know, we hates it. We can increase this up a little bit, but we will also notice some effects that will be happening in the market once these are produced. I don't think we will have a collapsing price yet on some of this. No, in fact, it's even going up because the extra demand probably here for the wharf. Maybe not. You know, maybe to get the show on the road here, what we will do is we will actually close our granaries. And in fact, we might even want to delete all of our granaries. The thing we're going to get squeezed on is going to be pop promotions. They effectively, someone who's taken a closer look at the math than I, has told me they effectively translate to 14 pop growth. But of course, this pop growth per year, but the pop growth will translate into a greater chunk of pops to which your other pop growth modifiers are kind of going to be had. But I think the higher population you have, and we have a lot of population locations, probably the proportionally less valuable the granaries are, and the granaries do have an operating cost of quite a bit of masonry. It is 0.2 on the operating cost, I do believe, yeah, so it's 0.2 on the operating cost, so this is currently the biggest source of eating masonry in our market, because it's eating, what is this, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 masonry, and so by getting rid of this, the masonry price should just collapse. If we let a little bit of time kind of peel off here and we took a look at the masonry price and where it's going, there should be very little demand. The demand that is created is by burghers exporting. That's only 75% counted, and so the effective supply and demand is going to really push it down quite a bit, and we're already going to be getting a slightly bigger discount. So once that's in, we'll start expanding the fine cloth. So we've also started strengthening government. We should have been doing that from the start. And in here, we have also pinned to the outliner a few goods. This only covers your home market, but this is pretty nice at the start of the game, and it's going to be especially nice for us because we're just going to have one market that we're operating through. So we've pinned the two major inputs on lumber and masonry. We might pin sand and glass as well, and also fine cloth. You can see fine cloth, there is a deficit of fine cloth, which is part of why it's above the base price of 6. But we're even on lumber and masonry, and yet the prices of these are going to go down, and the reason for that is going to be that there's going to be burgher exports which count for less demand than they do supply. So that's why our masonry is sub 1. Our lumber mills haven't finished yet, but what we're going to do now is we are ready to produce or start producing some tailors guilds, because we have gotten a big enough price collapse on the masonry at 95% to be able to get the full minus 33% discount. So we're just going to put in, not that many, we're going to put in 6, because this is a city, it can produce 2 at a time, which is going to eat through most of our promotions. We do have some sensitivity towards where we put it in terms of what provinces, and we currently don't have urbanization in provinces where we also have cotton. We have urbanization in this province up here, but it's this province and this province that has the cotton. We would like to be getting bonuses for kind of our efforts, but this is going to be good enough for us for now, especially because timeliness-wise, your tax base is throttled by the amount of control you have, and so they will just be overwhelmingly high-performing in the capital because we are lacking in control in other locations here, courtesy of, to some extent, the Nile lordship. So our lumber mills finish, and we have this massive surplus of lumber, which the burghers haven't even had a chance to export yet. They will start exporting eventually, creating demand, but for now we have this huge overglut of supply versus demand, and so we're going to have a really good opportunity to expand out some RGOs. Our heuristic is going to be that we will just expand out the ones that are making us the most money, but just kind of want to show just how quickly the drop-off is on some of these RGOs. A big portion of that is going to be the fact that we don't have very much control right now. Adding to kind of our lack of control is we have really low satisfaction. This is because the estate satisfaction's not doing all that hot, and we also have the malice here from the stability giving us minus estate satisfaction here. Double this value is going to be being applied to just general satisfaction, and so this is kind of not ideal for us, but we do have kind of a bright spot in terms of some long-term stuff that is related to that, which is we are gaining quite a bit of prosperity because we do have a lot in our government right now. We have the base value plus an additional 0.35% on our prosperity gain. And so if we take a look at modifiers and we look for prosperity, we can see what it is coming from, but it is coming from market fares, which is base, and lenient taxation. We want to get the one from tribes as well, and so why don't we slot that in, because we do have a little bit of legitimacy left over. We slot in a couple additional things like treasury rights, which we had talked about earlier, but let's get an additional progression here from tribal land rights, which are going to make the estates further upset, so this is going to further negatively affect our satisfaction. But as our stab recovers, our satisfaction will start to come back up, and we'll get some more of these long-term effects. But now we're up to gaining up to around 0.6 on the prosperity, and this is before any sort of free subjects push, so this is going to allow us to dev up really quickly. But we are deving up right now, of course, because of architectural visionary, and so this is something we care about because this is going to be a modifier through which all of our demand is kind of pushed through, and so the fact that we're getting 0.004 dev right off the bat is pretty nice here, just in the opening salvo. So we're going multiple levels on the sugars here, mainly because this is by far the most valuable thing in the urban areas where we actually have a surplus of laborers anyways, especially in areas where we had granary employment otherwise giving them. This is giving us potential laborers, so this is giving us effectively a stockpile of laborers. We will expand out the sugar a little bit more. It's the most profitable. It's going to be what we end up trading when we start trading more. To that end, we also need to decrease the price of glass. It's important to emphasize that at base prices, you're paying 100% cost. With the discount, you're paying 66% cost. That means you get to, with the same amount of money, build 50% more buildings, right? Because instead of being able to build with the price of instead of being able to build 2 buildings, you can build 3 buildings with the same amount. And so that's going to be useful to us. To that end, we are expanding out the glass guilds in Alexandria. I think we could go for actually a couple levels here and just look to create a little bit more glass. There's generally not a whole lot of demand for glass or supply and demand. Actually, you look at it, it's just 0.36. So 2 glassworks should be enough to get this collapse in, which is what we need in order to make marketplaces cheaper for us to produce and get some value from trade. Currently, in terms of our trade capacity, we have 13 trade capacity is producing 35 profit. That's 2 ducats per trade route. Now, we're not getting the entirety of this. This is getting throttled by our crown power. However, this is also pure gravy because our expense sliders are not increased by our trade income, and so increasing the trade income dramatically would be quite useful. And so that's going to be what we move towards. We also see that we are selling specifically gold. We could maybe expand this. Maybe that's reasonable. It is in our subjects' territory, but man, they don't even have any qualified pops here. So I guess let's not go for that just yet. Alright, so we have the glass collapse, which is the easiest to maintain. You can see that our balance of glass is plus 1.48. The demand is 0.16. This might even cause firing down in our glass that we had built, because I'm not even sure if it could be profitable at that. Well, it can be, apparently. To be fair, there's a stabilizing effect on price, where price tends to stabilize at really low numbers, so probably seeing that effect in glass, where the price is not completely collapsed despite having 10x the supply, because it is around, it is very close to zero, both supply and demand. There's an equalizing factor here. But what we are going to be wanting to do is a couple of things. I think, first of all, I'm not sure to what extent we really need the extra diplomats, but we do want to not forget to build the royal garden. We're going to have to import tin and gold in order to do that. We'll put that off towards later so we can forget about it. And then we are going to want to add marketplaces because we have a full collapse here in terms of the prices. Now, previously we've spammed marketplaces kind of in the rear, where the idea is that you get the value from the marketplace no matter where it is, and to some extent this is what we probably want to continue to do, and to make use of promotions, because as these guys are promoting up, and they will promote up quite quickly, as long as there are vacancies, we will be getting more burgers, and we want to constantly be getting more burgers. ABC, always be kidding more burgers. And so with this, we will also value marketplaces now more kind of close to the capital, or close to the market center, because with this we will get additional market access, which will increase our production on all of our buildings. Now, this is going to be most valuable in the capital, to be fair, but we're also kind of fighting with qualifications on the, to some extent, the fine cloth. Although fine cloth, now we have a surplus, the price is dropping, so the profit per level is not anywhere near what it was, and we have another 2 kind of coming in. We still do have potential burgers, though, so what we're going to do is we're going to add a couple of these in the capital, and we're going to add a couple of these in our other 2 cities as well. We don't want to add any in Alexandria, because they already have 100% market access, because that's where the market capital is. We also might be moving the market capital to Manuf. Manuf is kind of centrally located between all of our locations, and I'm not entirely sure this is the best location, but I'm suspecting it might be, or if not Manuf, maybe a place that has poor topography, slightly poor topography, for the reason that the market doesn't have to pay when it is leaving, so this might be a little bit of a better location. The benefit of Alexandria is closer to this over here, and that is going to be inside of this market, and I don't think we want to create another market. We could, but it seems like I think we would just use this for a periphery kind of funding of both food and kind of resources into kind of our more central producing section of our market, and I think that that's probably a decent strategy. So for now, we'll leave it in Alexandria because that'll benefit these a little bit more, and I think that we can probably long term, especially once we hit age 4, once we hit the upgraded version of the marketplace, get the additional market access with enough levels, that we will be getting up to 100% in this entire region, which is what we really want to be having. A little bit of a low roll, I feel like, for us, unless that guy is slated to die. He died a little bit young, did our ruler, so now we will have this character in charge. Okay, so fair enough. We decided to get him, our heir, a second marriage before then, marrying a lowborn again, which cost us a little bit of investment, but I think that that's fine, so that we can get more kids, so that we can maintain high crown power characters. We can also immediately have another royal marriage, which is going to suit us just fine. And now we lose our cabinet member, unfortunately, because he was in the cabinet, was our heir, who is now the ruler. This guy is still a member of the crown estate, but we will need to promote someone, and we will need to make them leader of the cabinet. We're just going to double check who has the absolute most Diplo. It will be this gentleman here. We are going to be pushing Diplo primarily, and so we will come in here, and then we will also make him head of cabinet. Is this guy head of cabinet? Why can we not? Oh, we don't have enough money. When we get enough money, we will promote him to head of cabinet. So probably seeing a dip in crown power over the course of the next month as a result of losing out on the having a guy in the head of cabinet. Yeah, and you can see just how painful it is. I think that we do call an ambulance, but for our crown power, do have to double check that this guy also is one of these. Yeah, he is one of the guys that is also of the crown estate. Alright, so we get a little bit of flavor for Egypt here with this Black Palace building, and I remember it being better than this. Now, if we stay monarchy, this is going to be a very strong building because it's giving us monthly legitimacy. However, if we're switching theocracy anyways, this is not going to matter for us having the capital here. Also, it's going to give us a silk output. That's not really that strong an effect, considering we are playing in such a way where we are not going to have any silk production. We do not currently own any silk RGOs. We are not planning on owning any silk RGOs, so that'll just be a dead modifier. So what it comes down to is a 5% output bonus on local cloth output, which is well worth paying for, but we don't need to keep the capital in Cairo here if this is the case. So we might be planning a capital move. We will say very well, we will get ourselves the building, but we are now in the process of considering moving the capital here to Manuf. The reason being, Manuf is just more centrally located. It is adjacent to very nearly every location in kind of the delta, and so the question is do we stay monarchy? And if the answer is no, then we are going to be moving the capital to Manuf. Manuf notably enters this location and is pretty close to all these subsequent downward locations, because you see this location here, 60 with 60 control. Manuf is 1, 2, 3 kind of places away from it. Cairo is 1, 2, but Manuf gets to be closer to like virtually everything else over here, and so it is going to be quite nice. I think that it might even be the case that Manuf is the same away from some of these down here. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you see it's a bit of a wash here, although it will be one closer to this. And so I think that Cairo is a little bit closer because these segments in kind of the rightmost portion are a little bit closer, and Cairo is a little bit closer to that. So the overall downstream locations, it's going to be closer than Manuf by 1, but Manuf is closer to all of this, where a majority of the pop is by a little bit. And so I think it will be preferred to be thinking of moving the capital here now at this point. Alright, pump the brakes here. We can build multiple levels of this building, so that will be an additional 0.1 legitimacy, incentivizing us to stay aristocracy, right, because we are going to be able to have 5 levels of this. I wonder how the levels are scaling, if it's a constant factor, or if it's scaling with population or something like that. No building scaling. Okay, so we're going to be able to build 5 of these, so that's going to be 25% output on fine cloth. We are using the mod for auto expand, or regular cloth, so at this point, we might just want to set this to auto expand, and so I think that's what we're going to do with the Spinners Guild. Put that in on auto expand and just let it take the wheel. This is getting to the point where it's not profitable, so we overshot it a little bit. It is giving us opportunity for profitable trades here and there because the trades are going after it, or it's giving other people the opportunity for profitable trades, which is kind of buoying up the industry. But what we need is more demand for fine cloth in the aggregate. For this, we're going to need more highly promoted pops, and we're going to specifically really care about getting their dev above 20. And so in all these locations, we want to get the dev above 20, and we also want to get them urbanized, because what we really, one of the drivers is going to be, okay, the nobles are going to consume a decent chunk of it, but really in the aggregate, who's going to be the really big concern is consumer is going to be the burghers. And so we are going to want additional burghers because we have urbanization, so that they eat more goods, and so that we have quite a strong demand for this. Clerics are also going to push the needle a little bit, which is one of the reasons why we value spiritualist, is because they are going to consume some of this as well. I don't think they are consuming that much right now. We can take a quick look here and see just what their expenses look like, what they are consuming. So a majority, or 25% of their expenses, are in the fine cloth, so they are helping to buy this, but they're basically just buying 1.5 or 1.25 unit of fine cloth, so we would need to bring up their numbers quite a bit. But at the same time, our scaling here, our push towards this is not even half what it will be eventually, and if we flip spiritualist, we'll get even more scaling towards this, and so we got quite a lot more coming our way. Alright, so we pip our first parliament. We're going to do it in Cairo because that has the most population, so we're going to be applying more dev to the place that has the most population, and we don't care if we push towards decentralization or centralization, either one, because we're going towards decentralization at a good clip anyways. Now, what we are going to want out of parliament is just as many as much support as possible, so we're going to go expand gravel road network. I don't know if we're going to build any roads. It would be nice to get this really steep discount. We've been kind of prevented from creating a bank because we do have this auto-expanding, as well as one auto-expanding for masonry, so maybe that was a little bit gratuitous, so let's pull off of that and maybe we'll build 1 or 2 road segments here. But what we really care about is our ability to pass 1 or more laws, and unfortunately these guys do not have a lot of support or like for us, but for Mamluk promotion, we actually want dynastic basis anyways. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to wait for this guy to recover up. When he has more satisfaction, he will be able to give us more juice from our parliament. I think that we can also give out the clergy parliament where they are supported, because I don't think we've given that out just yet. The clergy in parliament, no, it looks like we have. And so we'll actually have a little bit of a weight on our hands. We were also thinking of, since we have a rev brewing on these guys anyways, of handing out the noble navy. It doesn't give too much power. We want progress towards naval anyways a little bit to help pull us towards naval, because I think right now we'd be very satisfied to just kind of be in the middle. And so with that in mind, we will be back when we have the parliament just about to finish, because then our button clicks will be a little bit more powerful, because we will have more satisfaction on the nobles. Alright, so it's time to do the things, starting off with Noble Navy, because this is going to increase the satisfaction of the guys here, which is going to increase the amount that we get from changing the policy. This is expensive on the stab. The stab has been an issue. It is one of the reasons we were having satisfaction issues, and we're going to jump back right into those issues. We need a tissue, but the legitimacy will be nice, so we will be swapping on over to that, and now we have 90% to work with. And by the looks of it, we will be able to get an additional 10% here. We will probably want to push Spiritualist anyways, so it's just a matter of which button clicks we're going to be able to get here. And the most important one is not for us to get off this traditional distribution of power. This is kind of the normal thing, but we have the very nasty local courts, which are giving us -5 control, which is not something we're interested in. We're going to go autonomous councils instead here, which will decrease our support by 50%. We're going to click spiritualists, and we're not going to really need levies, so we have 2 options here. We can either upset the nobles here by 10%, which is kind of a little bit painful, or we can click the nobles button and get the 2.5 stab. I think we're going to take the 2.5 stab here, just to see if we have a, well, here's the thing is we also have the value of the peak under here, and the value of the peak under here is not that valuable, but -10% is really kind of painful. So yeah, we're going to click for this, and we will get up to enough support to swap another thing, and we will ask for another law change, and we're going to need to do this. We're going to need to do this multiple times. Traditional distribution, not exactly what we want. It is giving us some legitimacy, which is decreasing some of the costs there, but I think what we're going to go for is favor the clergy. Not because we really want it for a long period of time, but because it's giving us that spiritualist progress here. So we will be going for that. Also, as we make the clergy more and more powerful, as we start to get more and more clergy from this scaling benefit of having more spiritualists, this is going to dilute out the power of the nobles, because a bigger share of the pie will be going to the ulamas. So that is also something that we care about, or kind of one of the ways in which we are processing this. We're still getting upgraded pops of this type of thing, but I think that's a pretty good parliament for us just set, and I don't know if we can afford a road segment. Road segments are going to be important for us in general, so let's take a look and see what we can get. Can't get that. Can we get this to this? We can. I think we're going to go for this segment, which is wheat to our city here. This is going to increase development. I don't think it's going to be the case that we are going to... It's not going to benefit us from the perspective of reducing proximity costs, but it will allow us to build a bridge. And for both of these locations, they will also get 25% additional development growth because they will now have a road. Although next patch, it will require a road connection to the capital, so this will not get it. And so that will be what we go for here with a little bit of extra money. And we will also be looking to, kind of in the near future, and kind of can just show this off right now, be looking to build bridges specifically in critical locations where we are projecting control to, although we will be getting +5 control everywhere. We could also show that off here. Now that we've changed up, the max control here is 73, so all of this is going to be +5, which is going to be nice, but we could also build roads and such to try and unlock the economic activity that we have in places such as Alexandria, where we have, you know, over 10 buildings, and so pumping up the control of Alexandria is going to be the equivalent. If we get +5 control in Alexandria, it's kind of like building several buildings all at once, or a couple maybe, and so us getting more control over there is going to be useful. But the thing that we're really kind of looking forward to is going to be increasing urbanization, because we have so much urbanization, and we can kind of take a look here. We have so much urbanization potential, and a lot of this potential is coming from scaling. So like the ones that we are getting on clergy, this is coming primarily from the scaling we are getting. We have 50, 100, 250, 300, 400 just from flat, and 900 from scaling. The nobles, it's going to be a similar idea. A lot of these are coming from aristocrats. We have 50 base rank, and the rest are coming from aristocrats, and they are a huge portion of our demand right now. We do want to shift over to being more burghers oriented, and we are also going to be getting, well, we're not going to get scaling burghers unless we push plutocracy, which is maybe still in the cards, but I think thematically aristocracy maybe makes more sense, because if we're trying to play tall, having more discipline is probably thematically a little bit better. Although, the flip side of this is playing with just one location and relying on trade for value. Overwhelmingly, we would prefer to be plutocratic and also a republic, and so I suppose long-term, actually, plutocracy might be necessary, because if you think of it, the way we're going to start extracting more and more value is going to be through our subjects, and it's going to be specifically through seizing up our subjects to trade, and if we are going to be gaining value through that, we need scaling for trade, and so we might have to move in that direction either way. Just as an example, taking a look at Venice here, we would get access to Merchant Republic, giving us minus 25% trade maintenance, plus 50% trade capacity, and the overwhelmingly important plus 25% trade income, which is multiplicatively effective with trade efficiency, in addition to the Republic having some tax that will benefit trade as well, really kind of pushing the value in this direction. Although the trade capacity, when we are getting trade capacity from our subjects, I don't know if we get to double dip here. I don't know if their trade capacity modifiers are applied and then we get the flat amount from them, or if we get a flat amount and then our trade capacity modifiers are applied afterwards. I don't know the order of operations, which is maybe a bit of an interesting thing, but we cannot get access to this if we stay well, actually we can if we stay aristocratic. We would just have to go 95 plutocracy first and then back to 100 aristocracy, which is quite the runaround. So a little bit of a point about satisfaction is that it gives you minus max control, right? So and it gives you minus 10 if you're at 0 and minus 0 if you are at 100 satisfaction. So for every 10 points, that's 1 control. So one thing we can do to increase satisfaction a whole lot right now is if we take a look, overwhelmingly our populations are composed of peasants and laborers. You could barely see the upper class pop, barely see any laborers, barely see any burghers, nobles, and also the clergymen. Clerics only 31k, nobles only 20k, burghers only 34k. Really not a substantive amount, which means that for location satisfaction, overwhelmingly it's being informed by the commoners. So giving out commoner privileges is going to be very valuable just for the purposes of producing this satisfaction. It's going to be quite useful for us. And so to the extent that we can get away with it, we will try to do it. We can see that it will give a lot of negative Umara satisfaction. So this is going to increasingly be the thing that throttles us. You remember there was a rev that was brewing. We don't really want to deal with the rev. We don't want to deal with like all this negative prosperity caused by the rev. If we can kind of look to thread the needle a little bit. And so this is going to be something we go for, is additional stuff that is going to help us out in this regard. I think that we like rural migration attraction a little bit right now. Just to, actually, let's go common militias. I think that that's a little bit, actually, we would like some progress towards communalism, just in case we can actually get that going. We now have 0.2 progress towards communalism, so if we manage to get a couple more sources, we will actually be able to progress towards communalism above this 50 count, and be able to try and push it closer and closer to 100 during the Black Plague. Spiritualists going pretty well, almost at 50 here, and we will probably, if we take a look at Cairo, we can actually see just how far behind the promotions we are. So we have 46k total, but we have maximum clerics of 8.5k. This is important. And so this means we will probably want to kind of think about starting to shift towards a little bit of an inflection point where we are going to want to start building more paper, and also on top of that build books, and then be able to supply and build up libraries in particular. Their base price is 50. It looks like we do have a price collapse here. And the main idea is that as we add one of these, the main idea is that the base promotion level is 10. We have plenty of opportunities pushing things up as well, but the library is going to add another 10. We have some other percentage modifiers. To some extent, we also do value free subjects because that can push up our pop promotion speed. I think in general, we will want to move towards it, especially because monthly prosperity, this has been something that we've pushed specifically pretty heavily in the past for this pop promotion speed, and maybe we will continue to do that, coming back to kind of some more of these commoner privileges that are giving us free subjects, because this will allow us to also be able to promote up pops faster. So our throttle right now is actually our promotion speed, because we have over 4k potential as a result of bringing up Spiritualist, but they can't promote up fast enough. You can see we're only getting plus 12, and different pop groups promote at different speeds. Burghers promote at a pretty decent clip. Clerics are much, much slower, so there's going to be a very significant lagging positive economic effect as a result of increasing the amount of ulama we had, which actually, seeing that their power's gone down, we probably could have held off on revoking their privilege until after the Black Plague, not considering the fact that pop promotion speed would be an issue for us in this regard. So here, I think that we're going to go for the Diplo focus, largely because we will not get anywhere near the normal kind of value one can get out of the proximity cost, and we want to be able to have March subject types, because that will be useful considering the downside of Marches is that you can't annex them. We don't really care about that. So we're going to go Diplo. It's also got a bunch of other stuff that is reasonable for us, like additional subject income. We're going to lean into subjects. Improve relations will help us to manage the subjects. Diplo rep can kind of help us out in a couple of regards. We can hire privateers if we want to go privateers, stuff like this. We will have a few more tools, but the main thing is that kind of the old kind of big benefit here is not going to be present. Although the literacy wouldn't mind the literacy that we get in Thirst for Knowledge, this type of thing. But I think overall, if Diplo Focus is going to be good, it's going to be good for us right now. One of the things that also gives us monthly diplomats, and to that end, we have also imported tin so that we can produce Royal Gardens, which we will add now, which is going to give us additional diplomats. As it stands, the interaction we are looking to do is divert trade, which is going to give receiving divert trade, but they will also give us 50% of their trade capacity and also their trade advantage. Now, I don't think that that is going to be good for us right now, but what we're going to want to do is improve relations with these guys. If we can get these guys to 83% loyalty, then we will be able to divert trade. And so this is a reason for us to maybe try and stay monarchy and try and not accidentally brick our fiefdoms, because we will have 2 tracks of subjects, which means we will keep them more loyal because we will not get a penalty or the power relative to the power relative to them. Here, let's find this one. The country strength of all vassals relative to overlord. This is separate for fiefdoms and vassals, and it's also separate for marches. And so we can have additional subjects if we stay in monarchy. And so this can be beneficial if we are leveraging these subjects and able to get them up to 83%, or maybe not even 83%. Maybe we just tolerate them being disloyal and have them ship us half their trade, something like this. You can see that there's like a lot of things pulling us in multiple directions, but if we don't stay monarchy and we just have vassals, what the marches will enable us to do is give us a second subject type, and so by doing this we will be able to have more subjects with whom we are diverting trade. And so this is kind of one of the thoughts. We actually will be annexing Barca as well, and we're improving relations with them because they are part of this region. We do have some unintegrated stuff. We could release it as subjects. I think we're just going to keep it right now, not necessarily because it's better, because I do think releasing subjects would probably be a little bit better, but just because this is our region, this is what we have, this is what we're sticking with, and it's just a little bit more themey. Also, since we hit the next stage, new government reforms are unlocked. The 2 we're kind of looking at our local army organization for a little bit more free subject push. I do rather like this if the opening salvo is really emphasizing a free subject push, but since we're not, I think we're going to go plutocratic ethos. That's going to make all of our parliaments a little bit better. We'll also take less antagonism, pretty valuable for this age, and also get a little bit of a trend towards plutocracy. We do, I think, no matter what we are going to end up doing, want to decrease the aristocracy, whether or not we're just bouncing it back up, or shifting all the way to plutocracy, or shifting to plutocracy and coming back. I do think that it involves us returning to 0 either way, and so we will go for that here. Very close to an 80 push on spiritualist as well, so we will get that nice and high. And we currently have 0.2 on communalism. We have a couple extra things that we can go for. We do have to keep an eye on these guys. I don't think we want to dip it too low. We are pretty good on the general population satisfaction, but again, this is mostly to do with our peasants, and so if we were to slot in something that would give us trend towards communalism, we do see that we would have to deal with the -6 of the Umara, but maybe that's kind of okay in a couple of spots. We just don't want to push it too much. We do have this tolerance of heretics and heathens decrease. We don't really have that many heretics and heathens, but it looks like we only have 0.2 remaining worth of pushes, but that will be enough to get us up to kind of a new area, or a new level of we will, if we get to this up another additional 0.2, that'll be up at 0.4, and we will be able to push it with the cabinet before the Black Death. The Black Death coming in 4 years, and so we do maybe want to get a little bit of a move on. We have to finish pushing spiritualists first, but this is pushing really fast for us. So we are going to go for this tech. It's important, or perhaps we made a little bit of a mistake again, revoking immediately the WIKE payments, although it's been nice getting that additional 10% tax efficiency because there is revoked privilege cost here. But I think what we're going to do is just make an absolute beeline towards city rights and founding town cost. Considering we want to get a whole bunch of these going, we are going to urbanize almost everything, and so this is going to be really, really valuable for us to push towards immediately because that's kind of where we want the money to be going soon, because once we get those, all of our scaling of X in towns and cities, both of the kind of the spiritualists that we have here, as well as the flat amount that we have now from burghers, because this requires them being in towns and cities, every town and city we make is going to make like 500 burgers, or every town we make, I think, is going to make 300 burgers, 200 base, I believe, and 100 from here. And so us being able to found these, in addition to giving us economic opportunities for building buildings, is also going to give us quite a lot of demand, because if it scales with per 1,000 pops, and you have this many pops, you're going to be able to get a lot of promotions, which is why we have potential clerics of, 9,000 here in Cairo, which is an absolutely enormous figure. It's because it's scaling with the amount of pop we have. Now, to be fair, this is all going to decrease when we hit the Black Plague, and in some sense, the Black Plague is going to fill out our ranks. Well, actually, no, it's just going to kill a bunch of our pops. Just kidding, never mind. I was thinking that we keep a constant amount of clerics, and then the Black Plague decreases our capacity, but that would only work if it targeted the peasants specifically, and it targets young and old, poor and rich, because it's the plague. Fun the whole family can enjoy. So we get the institutions all spawned. Milan is going to have the Renaissance, Geneva is going to have banking, and Constantinople is going to have professional armies. I think because of that, we're going to look to increase our trade with Geneva, because trade is going to be pushing the institutions faster, and we will just look to kind of try and decrease the institutions' cost for ourselves in terms of stabs. So to the extent that we have any pop need, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking to satisfy it with goods from the Geneva market. We don't really care if it's going to be less efficient pulling it from the Geneva market. This is just going to be what we look to do. It looks like they have not enough of that stuff. I don't think that they have a lot of olives in the Geneva market, so this is not going to work too well for us either. I imagine they don't have any sort of surplus. Yeah, so we can't bring stuff in from the Geneva market. We can try and do carpentry, because we know that we turned off all of our carpenters. We can do wine. I don't know why we're demanding wine, and we could do legumes. Legumes also have an interesting feature in that they are light. They only cost half trade capacity per good to move, and since it cares about the goods that you are moving rather than the amount of trade capacity cost, we would want to import from them. Looks like we're having a lot of trouble getting anything going from them. Certainly they would have wine, but this is the idea. We're going to look through and see what we can get. We can't even import wine. I forgot. It's haram. We are a Muslim, so we can't even try and import it, and so we will maybe be able to do furniture, but this is looking like not as demonstrative an example as we had hoped. It looks like we can import a little bit of furniture, and so that'll help us to pull the institutions a little bit faster. To the end of pulling the institutions faster, that will also increase the value of the library to us, because they are going to help us with institution spread. Although I think that it's coming off either the library or the university in the next patch, it will help us with the institution spread for now, which is going to be useful. So will roads, which I think are also getting removed, the institution spread that they give next patch, and so we do have even further kind of desires for features that are going to require urbanization, because in order to urbanize locations, it has to have in order to urbanize locations, we are going to be able to No, in order to build a library, we're going to need to urbanize locations. That's the one. And so we want all these pop promotions, these types of things. We want the potentials. And so more and more we are pressured towards that. And so I think what we're going to do is we're going to start promoting, and we're going to start off probably with... I think that we're going to want to go after the places that are pop-capped first, and also the places with really high population, just in general. So this 200k is attractive, this 83k is attractive, and maybe that's where we start pushing our next bit of money towards. The places that are pop-capped, though, are about to get unpop-capped just as soon as the plague hits. Very nice for us, getting our bit of flavor. The Moose Dabib inspectors giving us... Wait, did they nerf this even more? This used to give 10% tax efficiency. Wait, like, actually? Oh, it used to give 20 and then it gave 10. Is that actually... I mean, we still won it, I guess. But that used to be so much stronger. Unless they split it on another one, but I'm pretty sure that's what it used to be. Wow. Man, why do Ottomans just have to get the nerf bat? Okay, I mean, I guess we'll put it in because it's trade efficiency for cheap, but So the amount of money we are making just skyrocketed. The reason for this is our legitimacy is finally capped. Although we might need to hand out a privilege to the Umara here, and so for this or to this end, we are getting a lot of things pushing us in the direction. Aristocracy does give you extra nobles of your accepted culture, generally speaking, and we are going to eventually become a monoculture. So we cap this out. I think the cap is 0.2. I don't think it's 0.25, but this is legitimate gain, right? We have also the cabinet action in here, so that's 0.36, 0.38. This can scale up, but we can build another 4 of these, so we can get to a 0.46, I think. Math is hard. And then we're getting dynastic basis, which is unique to us, and then we are getting, I think this is just our Sufi guy, and I don't think that we would want this long term, but the idea is we are getting just a whole lot naturally, covering a majority of the cost here, covering a total of 0.6 legitimacy, which means we only have to cover, now that our legitimacy is capped, this 0.4 remaining, and so this is ending up being very, very cheap for us to maintain, and so our expenses have gone down very considerably with this 0.63, and we are going to be starting to take off. We are building some more glass guilds specifically because that's what's holding us back from urbanization at this juncture. It was the price collapse on glass, but just kidding, now it's not anymore. I think we're going to lead off with the fiber crops here. I would like to have a place that we could produce wool pretty well, other than the capital, because the fine cloth is doing pretty well, but it's doing pretty well because it's using the cloth as an input, and I think that we want a little bit more of that. We could go for... Actually, let's go for this 110k as our first urbanization here, but we will start bringing this up just as soon as we have enough money, which is going to require around 6 months. We could also, in theory, wait for this over here, but I don't think that that is exactly what we want. Wait for this over here, but I don't think that this is exactly what we want. We're pretty far off of this, and it's becoming kind of increasingly the feeling that we do want to get some pop promotions rolling. Well, we're going to hit the plague. The pop promotions aren't going to really necessarily... They will over-promote a little bit, but we don't necessarily... I think actually maybe it's better to wait until after the plague. One of the things is, though, we can build more hospitals. So I think what we'll do is we'll urbanize the very top population locations, which are going to be kind of all in the north here, this 200k spot, and that way we can build hospitals in them. But we can also afford pest houses. I think the route we want to go is pest houses anyways, and so maybe it's just we lead off with this 200k and do 1 or 2 others, but save most of the promotions for after the plague. So we're going to ask to improve cultural opinion here, which will improve the Levantine opinion of us, which I think might help us out with the loyalty a little bit. I'm not sure exactly the way the interactions work, but we're also going to go for our first divert trade here on these guys here in Lebanon. I think that's the way to pronounce it, and so we will go for divert trade, which is going to send us some of their trade capacity. We don't want to do people on the borders unless they're really going to stay over, but we do want to kind of get started on this. This is partially what we are going to dedicate our Diplo towards, and so they will become disloyal. This is a little bit unfortunate, but they will be sending us some of their trade in Damascus here, and so if we take a look, we should be able to see where our trade is coming from, and I think if we let this update once, I believe he has some amount of marketplaces. If not, this is probably a mistake. And we do see that we will be getting... Did we get any additional? Is this 0.15 from him? This is Damascus, and we have a marketplace in Damascus, and we're getting some modifiers here. And so we should in theory... Well, we should in theory have over 4. Oh, so here are our negatives, and here we are getting 0.15 trade. So not a whole lot of trade from this guy, but as he adds trade capacity, it will be a little bit of a thing. Trade monopolies, though, I do think is one that we want to get rid of. pretty badly. So let's actually get rid of that. That one escaped my notice, but these burghers are still really, really weak. And so while they are weak, we will get rid of this because we don't really like burgher trades that much, and we want our own trade capacity. And so that'll help us out. That will get rid of a rather nasty kind of malice here. So instead of this 3.95 trade capacity that we are having after our little tidbit, we will be having quite a bit more. We get a little bit of a prosperity hit here, and so we will be up to 4.95. So around 25% more, or 20% more, who would have thought. And so we will be getting additional trade here, which is actually going to be quite nice, because currently on our trade capacity with 6 unused, we're 1-to-1, and so this is going to help out quite a bit. So that one kind of slipped under my notice here when evaluating them initially, but that is also a high priority to get rid of, but it's not a high priority to care on because the burghers only have 3 estate power, so revoking that is relatively cheap and easy at this juncture until we get them over 20%, which is what we want. So we get our second parliament here. We still have a little bit of stuff we want to change. We also just noticed that we just hit cap, but what we want to do is we want to grab the promote castle works, and then the first thing we are going to grab, and look at that base support. We're getting the extra support from what we have in here off of the plutocratic ethos, the base parliament support, and so right off the bat we're doing pretty good, and we want to ask for a law change. We also have this special interaction, which isn't that great, but okay, we have it. And so what we are going to do is ask for a law change immediately here, and what we want to do is we want to gain a little bit, the maximum spiritual progress that we possibly can, and what that will do is involve us swapping up what we have on our censorship. We want to go towards strict censorship instead, which is going to give us 0.1 progress towards spiritualists, and also tolerance of true faith +1, which is going to be nice because we have really high population that is our base religion. And so we will go strict censorship. That will unlock us to be able to push up to 0.89, and so we will be very, very close to being able to slip into a theocracy if we want. Now, the thing about the theocracy is I'm not 100% sure exactly how this works, so I guess we're going to be experimenting a little bit, but I do believe that that allows us to de-slot the Mamluk government, which is not necessarily a good thing because we lose access to the Mamluk barracks, but if we're not throttled by manpower, as much as that guy's opening the throttle on his motorbike outside, if we're not throttled by manpower, then this is kind of a wasted government reform slot. So we would do just as well without it because it's not really giving us good things. In fact, it's increasing the cost of court, although if we went to theocracy, we don't care about cost of court anymore. But promote Mamluk, not very useful. Monthly army tradition, it's not worth the slot, so kind of doesn't necessarily feel all that great. Okay, so we also have this boat now here, and what we're going to do is we're going to put our leader in charge of it. Now, we're not going to have it leave the port, we're just going to sit this here. As long as it's in port, it won't increase the mortality of our leader that much. If we have it leave port, we will lose any sort of bonuses we have to life expectancy, because right now it's reading Alexandria's location. If we head out, it'll just be a sea location, so it'll stop using our location, as far as I understand the system for this, but we will get an additional progress towards naval. Also, now since a crown power character, i.e. our ruler in this case, is in charge of the navy, we are getting 25% from him being in command. This is proportional to the total size of your army and navy, and so if you have a ton of different fleets, each one will give just only a share of this 25%, but as long as we have only one boat, this will give the entire share, so that's an additional 3% crown power for us, which is roughly speaking 11% increase in the amount of trade income we're getting, pulling down ourselves. We are getting quite a little bit here, which is going to be nice for ourselves. We could also cancel the tin, I think, that we had put in before. It's nice to have the tin supplied, but we'll be canceling that. Let's see if we can upgrade or up the amount we are importing in terms of this from Geneva, because that's going to both make Pops more satisfied, and it's also going to help us to pull the institutions a little bit more. As it stands right now, we're getting them at a decent clip. We have quite a bit of research we could do that's useful. Still, even kind of preferring to move towards this, and so we don't necessarily aren't in that big of rush, especially because we gave up this Levant area. If we didn't give up this Levant area, we would care about getting docks and barks very quickly so we could project control here, but since we gave it up to subjects, that's not really going to be a concern for us. So we're going to, and I think that we're probably going to miss the mark here, which the guy outside, he definitely missed his mark because he was supposed to come in later when we had the joke prepared, but his car is loud anyways, and so we will be increasing or upgrading this. The Black Plague is spawned. I think that it probably gets to us before we can get that hospital down here, but we're going to upgrade this so that we can go for the hospital. But now the only things we're going to be paying for is hospitals, and we are going to be paying in the area that has the absolute highest population first, starting with these two, and then we will be kind of going down the list of places we have urbanized based on how much pop is there. This is going to spike the prices of the urbanization on kind of a temporary basis, and even after that, we will look to hold on to a bank, because I believe we go expel the sick. I have to double check what is giving us the trends in the Black Plague menu, but this is what we really care about, is unlocking the trends and having the trends. I think we have a little bit more of a spiritualist push here, but we have to be a little bit careful that we don't overshoot these things, because we want to try and squeeze out the maximum, so we are going to get a whole lot towards spiritualists. I think that we're going to... it's a little bit rough because I kind of wish we could spend more on stab. Let's actually just spend more on stab because I do think we are going to need it, especially if we are in the near future considering going theocracy, which we kind of are. And so that will help out. Hopefully the Black Plague is a little bit slow and kind of its opening outset. New outbreak, not of the Black Plague though. And so we are just looking to preserve as many pops as possible. We can also benefit from pest houses, which most other countries can't, because we have access to incense with that I believe is within our market. It's somewhere down here or somewhere in here, but I do believe we have incense here, but maybe it's in the other market where we have it. Nope, we have access to some amount of incense. It looks like we're importing it from Adon, and so this means we can use the buildings that require incense, and also our hospitals, which do demand incense normally, will be more effective than the average hospital because they do... Oh, wait, no, they demand medicaments. Never mind, just kidding. I thought they demanded incense. Okay, well, they'll work just fine. Alright, so we have a little bit of an execution, or executing this is a little bit important, but in particular we want to click the Expel the Sick button, which is going to give us this 0.5 progress towards communalism and the ability to build a pest house, which is normally not very effective because you can't supply the incense, but since we can supply the incense, we'll be getting 30% disease resistance here, and so this will be valuable for us. But we're going to be playing tall in our area, and we are going to be pulling slaves here through slave raiding, and so preserving as much pop as possible is a little bit less important to us because we are not going to be pulling pops with our slave raiding all over the place. We're going to be pulling it to kind of our main place, which kind of brings us to the next one. I'm not 100% sure this is correct. I do think it is maybe correct, but we are going to be gaining sponsor mass forgiveness here. Now, the key thing here is why this is often bad is this minus 10% disease resistance. That's a little bit of yikes. More people are going to die, but it does give us progress towards spiritualist. So with this, we will be able to push to 95 spiritualist and flip theocracy. I'm not 100% sure we want to flip theocracy, but I think that eventually we maybe want to go theocracy and then flip onto plutocracy, this type of thing. I do think that this is going to be a typical move for a lot of countries, and the Mamluks having access to another 0.2 legitimacy maybe once pulls you kind of towards staying with them, but I really do think theocracy is one of the best governments, so do want to kind of showcase we can push 100 theocracy courtesy of sponsor mass forgiveness. Now for these buttons, the plague might flicker out. This is kind of an important play pattern, at which point whatever you invested up front is just lost, because if it returns, you'll have to click the button again. So we're going to click Sponsor Mass Forgiveness right now, because this will give us progress 1.09 a month towards spiritualist, but also if this flickers away, we will be able to recover the stability again. And so we might get an opportunity to show what's going on here. This is going to decrease our disease resistance here. Incidentally, we already have a lot of disease resistance here because we have that hospital as well as some other things. So I don't think we will formal guilds to them is probably fine because we want to give that out eventually anyways, and so we will go ahead and do that. But what we're waiting to see is, and certainly here is the loud card outside, it's busy day, but there's a little bit of presence here. You can see the minus 10% resistance has taken effect here, a courtesy of the thing, but we want to see the Black Plague spread, except we kind of don't. But once it spreads, then we will be safely locked in some sort of sense. I think that we have enough, satisfaction on them to be able to pay for that, and so we're going to go for this. Just waiting to see it move even the slightest bit somewhere else, because it can, again, just flicker away if we click the Pest House button and then we're out 10 stabbed for nothing. And so do have to try and play this carefully. If it gets to 1% presence, we will also pull the trigger on some investment, and it will, see, this is what we're talking about. It's gone now. Bye-bye. See you later, smell you later. And so we lose our progress towards spirit. Oh, do we just keep the progress towards spiritualists? So we get to keep it, I guess. But if we had clicked the Pest Houses one, we would have lost the 10 stab and then not been able to build Pest Houses anymore. So, and it deletes all the Pest Houses you already built, if I recall correctly, which is also yikes. And so we will just be waiting for it to reappear in our nation, making sure that we build up. I think that we have an opportunity for one more hospital here, so let's get that started, and we'll just preserve a bank so that we can Pest House the entire country. But this is nice because it gives us a little bit more time to get these hospitals to finish. The spiritualist, it does go away. So we can see here, now this has reappeared, and hey, we can sponsor mass forgiveness again, giving us another 12 stability. So we will do that again. This will allow us to progress the spiritualist track even more. Thank you kindly for that extra stability here. And again, we will do the same thing where we watch this, making sure that we actually get some plague spread. The resistance is a little bit higher than before because we built up some resistance when the plague was in this location for the couple months it was here. But it is going to be looking like, especially once it kind of entrenches over here and then kind of pushes on forward, we're not going to try and increase the presence faster, but as this kind of spreads overland, we are going to be hit with plague basically no matter what. Again, waiting for this to spread to multiple locations or get over 1% presence, at which point is probably not going to be going away anytime soon, and then we will click up on the pest houses and try and make everything go away. So that is 2% there. I think we are safe, not 100% sure, but safe to be able to click Expel the Sick, which now that we click Expel the Sick, we will be progressing very, very quickly towards communalism. We will be getting 1 progress a tick, and I think that what we are going to do is we're going to change societal value. We're going to do this on communalism. We have enough spiritualism spiritualism to do what we want because we have a 96, and so we can flip onto theocracy right now. I do believe. Oh no, wait, we can't. We need a stronger ulama. We also do want to gain more communalism, though. Let's make sure we cap out the spiritualist first before going communalist. We do have a little bit of a choice on our hands. But now what we're going to do is we're going to build a whole bunch of pest houses everywhere. So every single tick, we are building more pest houses. Currently, country deaths stand at 700k. We do have quite a small infection, it looks like, here in Cairo. I do think that that is the result of us building up resistance, so looking pretty good on the front of us preserving as many pops as possible. We will continue to build kind of on the tick. I think it's really worth the price of the pest house, especially because the pest house is applying more or less at maximum kind of capacity here. I do think we have quite a bit of demand for incense, so maybe we should check that out, and maybe it's a little bit too much incense here. If we take a look, it looks like, yeah, it looks like we're not able to quite supply everything, but we do have our trade kind of coming through to support the ability for us to have these pest houses. So the ones closest to Alexandria are operating at full efficacy, giving us this 30%, a massive 30% disease resistance, allowing us to really kind of nip it in the bud in regards to the plague by the looks of it. We start off with a little over 5 million pops, right? And currently not even 1 million are dead yet, and it is kind of leaving the bosom of kind of our country where most of our pops are here down in the Delta. the last vestiges of the plague have left our nation, and with it, our ability to push, we do get 76% of the way towards communalism. I think probably could have microed this a little bit better so that we would maybe be around 80 or 81, 82, something like this, but we're going to start pushing free subjects now instead. In order for us to flip theocracy, two requirements need to be passed. The first one, the harder one, has already been achieved, minus 95% spiritualist versus humanist. The rest requires that we get a clergy that is really, really strong, and to that end, it's actually going to be very, very valuable for us to decrease the power of the Umara, to proportionally give the spiritualists more power. To that end, we do want to start pushing plutocracy, but we can't really do that until our next parliament, and so in the meantime, we will be pushing towards free subjects, which will help with the pop promotions, which will help our spiritualists to refill. Incidentally, the economy's semi-collapsed here, right? Which is what happens in all the Black Plague. This is not only a result of buildings being unable to be employed up. You see here we had a reserve of burghers, so this is less of an issue for us. But in areas where you really expand out the urbanization and you're not getting as much from the base urbanization, or it's not cities, this type of thing, or areas that are not the capital because the capital promotes up a lot faster, in areas such as this, you will have stuff that is unemployed, but also the economy shrinks because there's less demand for stuff. And so the demand for, we didn't check it exactly beforehand, but the demand for fine cloth, yeah, it's gone down. And look, this is including exports. It's down, I think it was quite a bit more than this. I don't know exactly where it was at, but the needs of the burghers is a big portion of it. It looks like the clerics aren't needing it at all anymore because they aren't making enough money, I think. And so some of this stuff is a little bit fiddly in terms of the breakpoints because it is also by location. But this demand has gone way down because we don't have as much upper tier pops. We don't have as much consumption. And so that is going to be a little bit of a pain point until some of this recovers, meaning that we will not be able to be as profitable. Although I think we're still turning a profit, just barely any. And a big portion of that profit is also decreasing the costs. The profit here is actually quite nice. We have a lot of production efficiency despite not being capital economy yet. 25% from the Ablak Palace, which we did expand out all the way. So we are getting 5 times these effects. So 12.5% silk output, 0.1 legitimacy, and 25% local cloth output, which is not dependent on us keeping the capital here in Cairo, which we will as long as we're a monarchy, but we're, again, thinking of getting off with all of that. So, just to be kind of showing off a little bit, the amount to revoke a privilege is half what it was before, right? Crown power is helping us out, and the communalism is helping us out quite a bit. We've gotten most of the benefit, so the cost has gone down from like 160 to quite a bit less. Now, there is a parliament that you can roll that will decrease the cost even more. And so, this is a little bit of an interesting one, and we happen to roll it. If we can pass this, we will gain not just the revoke cost of minus 10%, which is kind of what we're in the mood for, but also crown power increase, which is going to be quite nice. We have to choose between this and sponsor noble arts, which is actually pretty nice for us. That is, state satisfaction recovery means we will be able to machine gun out privileges, which our kind of throttle has been the satisfaction of these guys, because the satisfaction will gain up quite a bit. I think we're going to go for the bolster government and just hope that we get a decent roll here. But also, the legitimacy, while it's being debated, it's going to be pretty nice as well. And so even if it turns out badly, it will be fine. So 19% here, 5% of that, I believe, is coming from here. And so that is going to be useful for us. And it looks like we could get an additional 30%. We don't mind taking a little bit of serfdom support, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to wait for these guys to come back up to a higher satisfaction level, and in fact, their equilibrium is 79%, so we just have to wait a little bit, and you'll see each time we take a tick, this will go up more and more in terms of how much support we can get, but unless we get a spectacularly bad roll, we will be passing bolster government, which is a pretty nice timing window in terms of what we can do here. And also, we get a little bit more secure parliament if we just wait. We will also be waiting on the money a little bit, because we are coming up on the thing that will give us cheaper promotions in the cities. We also added temples here. This is going to be somewhat valuable, although we don't have exactly very much eco there. We're going to tell these guys to kick rocks, as one should when dealing with burgers, but we are coming up on only 43 days left, so we will take another monthly tick here, and now we will need to fade just like a spectacularly bad roll here. No, actually, I think we just got it. So we're going to go for that. We don't want to support traditional economies, so we're going to contain banking as well. Not exactly what we would want to do. Hey, a little bit of progress towards communal values is going to be nice for us. And I think that will be the parliament. We do want to pass this, of course, because we want bolstered crown authority, which is going to give us this minus 10% cost. And then that's probably going to be the cheapest we will have in terms of opportunities, unless we can get another crown power character. I do think that these cabinet guys are crown power characters still. I think one of them is the head of cabinet. Oh, I think actually one of them's not. That's a huge leak. We forgot to promote him up. It is really expensive, but he should have been promoted up during the entire portion in which we were pushing stuff. But what we'll do is we'll take a month tick, because this will increase our crown power, and then we will have increase our crown power quite a bit, and then we will have kind of a relatively cheap being able to pull out one of these. We could wait and try and decrease the amount of nobles we have, or decrease the proportionality of the nobles, but we would have to wait for our next parliament in 5 years, push the burghers, and then remember before the following parliament that we want to revoke the privilege. But I think we could do all that. This is around for 10 years. It is really nice. And so I think we will be doing that. Just absolutely spectacular to roll that here. That's basically as lucky as we could have gotten on the parliament, and also been able to push it through. And so also, as we give out more privileges to these other guys, their power will increase and the other ones will proportionally decrease. I think that our guys are getting enough money. We kind of want to give that out. The thing is how unsatisfied are these guys? Pretty unsatisfied. They only get -6 here. We do want our burghers to be able to build roads specifically, rather than kind of these buildings. We want to build the buildings, choose what buildings to have, and have the burghers build the roads specifically, and I do think there are a couple roads that will be useful. You could see a couple of our auto expands kicking in. We turn this auto expand back on, and I think the auto expand, this is basically always going to be profitable, so we're going to keep it in here. That's fine enough. Just going to be waiting on the city rights. Partial yield is a little bit of an interesting one for us specifically. I do think that this is just good in general, and we have quite a bit of peasants and laborers, and if we take a look at our locations, like let's say Cairo for example, and we take a look at the food consumption, we can see that our peasants are eating an enormous portion of the food, right? Those dastardly peasants, they're the reason everyone else starves, and so I think they're eating roughly half the food. Yeah, they're eating roughly half the food here, so decreasing their consumption by 10% is quite valuable, and also when you do this, you increase because the per month of food storage modifier, which in 1.1, the upcoming patch, is going to be doubled, because this modifier is based on the total months of food you have in terms of storage, when you decrease consumption, you increase the amount of additional growth you will have from this. However, we don't really have large food storages, and I think that we're going to end up deleting granaries. We currently have them non-operational. This modifier is really nice for amplifying the effect of granaries, because it will give you more and more months of storage of food. But for us, I'm thinking that we probably aren't going to really get too much benefit out of it. And so maybe we don't go this yield, or if we take a look here, yeah, the large food storage in province, without the aid of any sort of granaries, does seem like it's going to not be too much of a thing. And also, this is too big of a strain, I think, on our potential buildings for us to be dropping 10, 20 granaries in some of these cities, especially when we already have so many pops, and it's going to effectively, math-wise, amount to flat growth. And so I think what we're going to be doing is not slotting this in. Well, actually, I think we're going to slot it in, but just for the free subjects. The thing is the maximum RGO size in rural looks bad, but this is actually a very small decrease, because rural locations already get plus 100% just base, and then you're also going to be getting some of these RGO modifiers. And then also for us, specifically, we're going to urbanize everything, or virtually everything. So there's not that many rural locations that this is going to apply to. Yeah, let's just go with partial yield. And it'll push us an additional 0.1 towards free subjects, allowing us to push this faster so that we're going to have a little bit more. On the prosperity front, or sorry, on the satisfaction front, we are getting basically maxed out satisfaction, which is going to be good for us on the prosperity front because this is not going to decrease satisfaction gain. So it looks like we are moving on up to around 69%, which is going to be nice for us. And this is without us having bureaucracy or the tech that we have, at which point we will be around 89%. And then with just a little bit, we don't even have to go all the way, but just a little bit of free subjects, we will be able to gain an additional 12-15% required to cap out our prosperity, which is going to be nice. And so we don't even have to push this all the way, so we might not do that. But also this decreases peasant food consumption as well, which allows for more pop growth from that modifier, which might not be very useful for us, but for a lot of other countries it will make a pretty big deal. We are going to have, relative to other countries, far fewer building levels per pop. And so this means that it's going to be our scarce resource, especially when we are not going to be expanding out as much, instead keeping ourselves to this region. This is going to be the throttle, so I don't think we can afford to utilize it on granaries. Alright, so we get this event, which gives us an opportunity to just absolutely super bullishly stimulate the economy, and it's not even remotely close. This is the better option, and this looks like a bad option somehow. It's got the red buttons, and you're like, oh no, what is this? Do we like this? Do we hate this? Why? What's up with this 27 paper? Well, this is artificial demand. Manna from heaven, as I like to call it. We currently have a demand of like 8 for paper. This is going to give us another 27. Our economy is about to absolutely explode, and this is one of the kind of the more unbalanced flavor events. We have like also the option where we just have to endure the cost, where we get lack of demand for refined goods, which does the opposite effect. It decreases the demand for all of these, or it gets rid of the demand that would have been created, I think. So I think it just maintains the status quo, and somehow this is represented as a positive. That's not a positive, my friend. This is a positive. So we will click this, and we will get this absolutely monstrous demand kicked into our market. So now we have this huge demand. Burgers have to import, but all of our paper stuff, because the burger imports count for a whole lot less than normal, all of our paper stuff, the paper price is just going to go through the roof. You can see the target price is 2.32, but this means we get profitable opportunities for more buildings. This is absolutely what we want. So we might even pump the brakes a little bit on the notion of going for expanding out some of the stuff, and just have a little bit of a stay for going for stuff like paper, which we will be able to build out of these two cities pretty well. And so if we take a look at our opportunity for 0.83 tax base, and this is without the price even coming up yet. The price has not yet come up. I know we're expanding paper in the capital. We could get maybe a little bit of a better look at it here. Currently, we're making 3.7 ducats off of 4 buildings, which, okay, this is reasonable, but this is with the price, of paper not yet increased. The price of paper currently, can we see the price of paper here? The price of paper currently is trending towards a value that is 2.32, right? So this is going to be 0.6 higher than what it currently is. So that's close to 50% higher. So that means that the income on these buildings is going to be, let's call it 40% higher. So this, 6.38 is going to go up to like 8.7 or something like this, which means that, with this increase, our profit on the building is going to go up by like 80%, because it's about the margin. It's this number minus this number. So when you increase this number by 40%, you increase your margin by an amount that is greater than 40%. And so this is going to be quite useful for us. Incidentally, we kind of do do need to get the market access up. If we had enough gold, I do think maybe we'd need to think about moving the trade capital to Manuf. But as it stands, this is going to be pretty valuable. We have excess burghers here in the capital. I think that these will be kind of the most profitable place for us to build them, and so we are going to look to start putting these in. Just a couple of these, but I think that we can also put these in here, and maybe even put them in on auto expand, because I do think that long term this is going to be something that we want anyways, and in the short term they can benefit from the fact that we have fiber crops in this province, and so we will get a little bit of a discount there. But we are going to start cashing in because expecting to have these it's going to tell us that we're earning like quite a bit less than what it's actually going to earn here. It's going to say that we get well, it's not even going to give us a prediction, but if we were to build in this fiber crop area here, build a place, Paper Makers Guild, 0.8, but this is not how much we're really going to make. We're really going to make something like 1.5 a level, which is more than enough for us to kind of deviate our urbanization plan off the back of rolling this event. This event also is going to be increasing the price of other stuff. It wasn't just paper in there, and so we can kind of, we will be able to sort out later a little bit better what it was increasing the demand for. But yeah, I do think that some of this was on sugar, which is really valuable for us. The RGOs are going to pop off. I think some of it was on cotton as well. Yeah, the 13.9 demand. And so just coming in, the immense demand that's being created. Oh, it's even on cloth too. This is going to be so good for us in terms of popping off the economy. We get to spin through this several times, if I recall correctly, before it ends, but I'm not sure exactly what the end condition is. But in either case, we will also look to expand out the sugar as well as the cotton, because these are going to be quite valuable. Poor market access maybe makes this not that profitable. Profit per level to 0.87. That's going to be more than enough, even with kind of lack of access to the market. Well, the market doesn't affect the RGO as much, or it's not going to affect the output quantity. It is going to affect the tax base. Yeah, even this before the price is increased, and so we're going to pop off on that event. So for tech, we're actually hurting a little bit. We do have the institutions spreading, and so we're going to have to wait. And to be fair, once the institutions all spread throughout our nation or through the Delta, that's basically it, and we can accept super easy. So that's going to be quite nice, but we don't really have... After kind of beelining it here, a lot of the techs don't quite feel as good. I think we're going to go for the food consumption. Well, now it's skewed. So we will go for the food consumption first. You don't ever want to unqueue something, because if you unqueue something, all the progress towards it will be lost. And when you initially put in a queue, it puts in all your banked progress. So we will go for that, and then we'll go for Muslim caravans here, picking up the max literacy for burghers and also trade efficiency or trade used over land. Something to keep in mind or to take a look at is the fact that we can get 0.1 legitimacy through Muslim heritage or lineage here. This is going to be useful. I think that this is only going to be useful if we are staying monarchy, though. So the plot thickens on that front. We currently have a Mamluk succession, which is a little bit obnoxious because we had our leader die without the heir being old enough, but without this, we are still getting quite a bit of progress here, and so this would very significantly decrease the legitimacy costs, and so being Sunni on top of all of this is going to be useful. But with the kind of swap in mind, I think what we're going to be going for is loyalty of subjects will be useful for us, especially because as we put in the trade them sending us the trade, divert trade, this actually is a huge loyalty bomb. I do think that this is quite good on colonies. I don't think it's good on normal subjects, but okay, we're trying it out here to try and justify us like leaving these guys subjects, and so they're going to give us a little bit of trade capacity. As it stands in this market, the trade capacity, we're getting 4 flat ourselves, and we are getting from our subjects now 1.5, which is not nothing, but it's also helping to keep our subjects down to the extent that we want that as an objective. But okay, we're getting a little bit extra there. Our trade is going to be worth our 6.2 trade is going to be worth 5 ducats, so we're getting like an extra maybe 8 ducat or 0.8 ducats from this interaction, which relative to how much we're getting from diplomacy is not the biggest amount, but this is pure gravy because it's just being added as additional trade income, or it's added as the trade pie, which of that pie, we are getting a third of it. So it's like 0.2 something ducats that we're getting added to the trade income as a result of this, which is, I guess, pretty marginal here in terms of trying to make use of this. This will be a lot better if they had like way more trade capacity or this type of thing. And it is allowing us to maintain control over the node, even if we gave it to an absolutely massive subject, which is maybe the thing to do. Also, in retrospect, maybe we should have just given this trade node to the subject that was closest to us. That way, maybe we could have done something where we would not have to control the trade node in order to prevent the markets from being wonky. But that's what we're doing. We haven't added in anything in here. I don't think we're not too focused on it because we're just trying to kind of keep that so that our subject markets don't get really messed up, and more focused kind of internally here on the delta. So we get the event for the end of the Black Death. 900,000 pops died out of like 5 point something million. We basically lost 20% of our pops, and that was with going an option that was going to decrease plague resistance. So really kind of showcasing why having access to incense is just super polarizing in terms of what you can get done. But okay, we will did anyone survive? We are also starting to urbanize. We are going to urbanize basically everything. We are also expanding out the other stuff at the same time. We have enough money kind of flowing through that we can get this done. But we are urbanizing specifically some of these locations that don't have that much pop capacity, so they were not able to experience any pop growth, and now they are experiencing pop growth. And kind of the reason behind this is sparse is going to be really, really bad for pop capacity. It only gives base local pop capacity of 25,000. Notably, for example, you get 100,000 from farmlands. So our farmlands are going to be really good. And then when areas are desert, they're only going to get 10,000 local population capacity. So considering you get plus 20,000 from a town, this makes it so that you basically completely override the effect. It depends on how much you have, but normally towns will grow faster. And then normally the towns will grow faster because, or sorry, not towns, rural areas will go faster because this 0.1 modifier. However, it becomes the case that you have such little amount of free available land because you're a desert, such that upgrading every single thing that's a desert to a town results in more population growth. Once you pass, I don't know the exact threshold, maybe it's 75% of the total pop capacity filled, but certainly when it's filled or approaching filled, it's going to be like that. So we will be keeping an eye out for that phenomena specifically, and then looking to upgrade when that happens. So this place is going to very nearly double in pop capacity because it's based off of this 30k kind of base amount, and it will be able to grow again. And okay, we will get less wool, and that will be unfortunate, but it'll be what it is. And hey, we do get our Sultan finally, which is going to be quite nice because now we will not have to suffer the indignities of the Mamluk succession, giving us a minus 0.5, and so that'll be nice. He's not the best, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. He's not but he'll do. Or fiefdoms raise their ugly head again, kind of being annoying, because he is considered to be the ruler of this location, which is our fiefdom. Which, okay, he is the ruler of that location, but he's supposed to be ruling, Egypt instead, so now we can't marry him away, which is a little bit annoying. We're gonna try saving and reloading. So saving and reloading doesn't help, so our ruler is forever trapped in one of our subjects. I don't know what happens. I don't think annexing them works. So we'll take a little bit of a crack at our parliament. In general, the parliament, one thing to keep in mind is it is increasing dev. And to some extent, we do actually want to push dev of high pop locations up towards 30, because that's when the consumption of books begins. And so we were just taking a look here. We see that, hey, this place and this place and this place, these all three can go, but this place is already over 30. And so why don't we put it in Dalmatia, a little bit of additional development for ourselves, so that eventually a little bit sooner they can be reading books. Still might be more worth to put it in the capital just because we have more pops there, but there's still quite a bit of pops over here. So we are going to promote integration process, I think. I think that'll be more useful for us. We're not going to pass it. We just want the additional, as much support as possible. We will be able to pass something immediately. The thing that we will pass will be getting off of the one for the mining, we just type mining? Mining law here, getting off the nobility one, which will decrease the nobility, the aristocratic trend by 0.1, and going on to burghers, which will increase the burgher trend by 0.1. So with that in place, we will be able to change societal values towards plutocracy a little bit, and decrease the power of the nobles here, decrease the power of the aristocracy, because we will be getting 0.15, and we can do another law change, or we would like to do another law change, and the law we would want to change is getting off of, if I recall correctly, yeah, we have aristocratic court. I remember royal harem being good, but I don't remember what it does. I believe it unlocks like a law system, and the laws are good, and so we should probably check that out if we can get enough support to get another click through, which hopefully we will. And very nice to see rolling communalism, because this is going to decrease that big stab hit that we are anticipating taking here. And so we will do the thing we normally do, which is wait until kind of the end of the parliament here before clicking all of the buttons, so that the buttons are worth more from the nobles' estate being happier. This is another thing. I think that generally it's easier to keep the burgher estate super happy. So this is a reason to go plutocratic, is because you will generally get a lot more support per estate. We do, of course, get this event, which is obnoxious, but okay, we will take... Actually, maybe the stab hit is cheaper, just because legitimacy is so expensive for us. I think it has to be the legitimacy has to be cheaper, I think. And so we will be just kind of cruising through this parliament. We have our stuff on auto expand. We are using the mod for that, so we don't need to watch it hyper closely. As just as soon as some of these expansions work, whether it's the paper or the cloth, they will automatically be put in. And so I think that we are under 30 days here, and so now we can click through and see what we can do. We're going to click the one that we have the most support on first, because it will decrease the support of our other guys. You can see 3.6 on the Ulama, but if we click here, we lose 7.48 there. So it's better to click the one that you have the most power on first. And so we have more power in the nobles, so we'll click through them first. Looks like, doesn't look good. Favor the elites is not something we want, so we're going to do this because we want to push communalism anyways. Pretty lucky there. Rolling tax exemption, because I think that's the only thing that gets us through here. And so we're going to click it, and then we will be able to go for law changes. I think we're going to take a save here, because I am not sure what the harem law is, and whether we want to go on to the harem law or the other one is going to depend on by getting off of the aristocratic court. Depending on what it does, this will influence where we want to go. So, aristocratic court we are getting off of because the progress towards aristocracy is not something that we are interested in right now. So, let's check and see. We did unlock a new law by switching onto this, and so this is the benefit that we get, is we get the ability to use one of these laws. 10% crown power for 5% noble estate sat is maybe kind of interesting. Allowing females in cabinets can help with the crown power characters. But here we see public harem. And this is another little bit of progress towards legitimacy. And okay, it's going to give us some progress towards aristocracy, so maybe we don't want it at this juncture right now while we're trying to push off of that. But that is something that we can push onto. And just taking a look here, what we have going on, we are getting, just in terms of flat gain here, 0.1, 0.02, 0.22 total, 0.4, and then 0.61. And then I think that we will lose this as well. And so if we get this, it'll be 0.7. So really kind of getting a lot of these flat legitimacy modifiers. And then 0.7, and then we can get an additional 0.1 over here, so up to 0.8 if we wanted to stay nobles. The thing is even if we had a completely free cost court slider, I still think monarchy might not be very good, but it is good from the perspective of having a strong multiplayer. So in or a strong military. So in multiplayer, it might be the case that staying monarchy on Mamluks makes sense because you can stack all of this stuff. And so that is kind of a little bit interesting. We will, for now, I think, go for the expected cost of court, this one, with the idea of changing it later. Or actually, we'll just leave this unslotted because we don't want the progress towards aristocracy right now, but we might want it later. We might turn around and just re-push aristocracy instead of the burghers. obviously you could tell that I'm really kind of on the fence on what we're supposed to do in this regard. Alright, it looks like maybe after a year passed, or I'm not sure what the requirement is, but he's back home. So we will be able to marry up this character. We will just marry to the youngest women. That way we can have the most years of child producing out of them. Not really caring too much about how it affects the prestige or anything like that. We just want to maximize our heirs, our descendants, and we can't marry anymore, they say, allegedly, except for we won't. We will go for a lowborn then. Just looking to maximize the quantity of people that are going to be from our house here. I'm not sure I've seen a bigger Chad Lord in the wild, but Tunis is offering us a marriage between this bro, who is 298 in terms of stats. Is this a historic character, or did they just Omega High Roll? I think they might have just Omega High Rolled, or they just have an absolute monster in charge at game start. But he's only 23, so I don't think I've seen a character like that in the wild. And we can marry off one of our females here. For a little bit of legitimacy, that's not really going to do anything. I think we'll just decline their offer. We actually fear him. We fear pure terror. We get an event here. I don't know exactly the trigger for the event, but it is another source of monthly legitimacy here. And so, increasingly, especially as we look to probably not pay this much for stab, we are paying basically nothing into our sliders. There's basically no cost here outside of building maintenance, which is probably on the net positive. This is lying. We don't actually have 8 Mamluk barracks open. We have significantly less open, and so I think we have just the one. Oh, 3 found their way to reopen? What is this madness? An oversight, perhaps. Those are supposed to be closed. I don't know how those reopened. Well, okay. But the point is as we stack up that increased legitimacy, we don't have to pay anywhere near as much to maintain. You can see that in order, the amount that we would be decaying without this is 0.2, and so as we get more of these modifiers, it is quite nice. And we even have 0.1 sitting in the wing here, right? 0.1 sitting in the wing here. And we also have, over here, another 0.1. So we could get completely free our cost of court. The cost of court is normally like your most expensive slider when you pay for it. The thing is even with all this, the issue and why I'm struggling here is that I think even with a free slider, theocracy is still probably better, but if there were someone to make it be good enough to stay nobility, it would be someone who has the characteristic, or nations that have the characteristic of the legitimacy being able to push all the way, are going to be the ones that are going to be good. So even if it's bad, maybe we do this just because for the people that it's bad, it's going to be good, if that makes sense, which it shouldn't, but it does. It makes sense deep in our heart, which is why we are pulled towards the aristocracy in order to try and make use of the fact that we're only having to pay 7 ducats here for cost of court. So our little bit of extra stimulus for paper has dried up. That event used to just re-trigger over and over and over again, so maybe that was a bug, and so we won't have the stimulus on either the cloth or the paper. So kind of having our knees cut out from under us, but we do want to transition into a more book-oriented economy anyways. The thing is right now there's not a lot of demand for books, and the thing is you have to get in order to demand it, you have to have over 20 dev, and then it scales linearly with the amount of literacy you have. So thing one is we need to get dev over 30 in locations, and to that end we could use dev province, and maybe that's not absolutely crazy, just to kind of push the rest of the way to this 30. And then secondarily, since it scales linearly with the amount of literacy you have, and it's generally upper tier pobs doing it, this is going to make us value stuff like max literacy for the clergy. Specifically, it's mainly these guys coming in our cities, where they are going to be demanding extra of those, and we could also go for the max literacy of nobles here. And so I think that we will do this, and the idea here is that as their literacy comes up, they're going to demand a lot more of these goods. And so if we check and take a look at like the literacy that we have going on here, these guys are going to be demanding books, but only 40% of the maximum books they could demand, because they only have 40% or 42% literacy. Their literacy max is 46, and so by increasing this, we can increase the amount of books that they are consuming by a pretty nice chunk. So far, actually, most of the demands from libraries, yikes. We do see from the clerics, it's just 0.6. Ugh. We need more dev in order to kind of get this going. And the thing is, we would urbanize areas that had 30 dev if there were more areas with 30 dev, but what we can do is we could just build more libraries. And the libraries are going to give us more pop promotions much faster. You know, you can see here we're getting 87. 25% of these are a consequence of the library. And the places that don't have available opportunities, they are going to be more benefited from the library. We don't have, or we are building a library there. And so that's going to help us to get to max clerics, because a lot of our locations were not at max clerics yet. And so this will be valuable as well. And so to the extent that we have clerics consuming stuff, they will be consuming a lot more if we do this. And so when we have more book demand, we can build more books, and when we have more books, we will have more paper demand, so our paper supply will be valuable. And so trying to spin it up here by increasing demand in a whole bunch of different places, also being pretty sensitive to the fact, or trying to be sensitive to the fact that our trades are still earning more than 1 ducat per capacity. And so as we remember too, because we can't put it on auto expand, we are adding marketplaces, or when we start to get kind of a big accumulation. But I think we're going to be moving the market center to Manuf here. The more we think about it, the more kind of like this play, and in which case we maybe at long term will make a market over here. It just won't be a very good or productive market, but maybe we could even do something like get subjects in Greece and pull Greece into it and use the inputs from Greece, because Greece doesn't really function that well. It's its own market anyways. Use the stuff like the iron, the wool, and this type of stuff to fuel an industrial base over here, kind of to the west. Alright, so while we remember, because it is going to be this year in 1360, we are going to use the bolstered crown authority, which we had gotten quite some time ago here, to revoke the privilege for the Amara. We didn't really decrease them quite as much as we wanted to. We still want to decrease them further so we can get the burghers into the parliament, but what we are going to go for is pulling Banal lordship here. And now, instead of the starting cost of 160 in terms of stability, it's only going to cost us 46, and so we will get rid of that, and that will be nice for us. It was also giving us progress towards serfdom, so we are continuing to kind of just get free progression towards free subjects here, moving on up to 40, where we can kind of push it more at our leisure. And so that's going to be pretty nice for us, because now all of our locations, which, you know, have a decent amount of control already, are going to be plus 5 control in terms of what we can get. And so really going to act as a force multiplier here for increasing the tax base in all of these locations, especially in places like Alexandria, where we have a lot of stuff going on. The amount that we are losing due to control is 20%, and so that'll be decreased to 15%. And so what is that? An additional, if we had 0 of this, we'd have 25% more on here, so we'd be making 7.5 ducats, so 1/4 of that. So we'll be making 2 more ducats into the tax base, roughly speaking, on Alexandria alone. And so, and you can see we're spreading the love a little bit because we are crimped on our construction speed here in the capital. Also, as the kind of look at, we have 50% production efficiency here, absolutely tremendous from the economies of scale, really strong in the second age as economies of scale. It scales down age to age, but you get a lot of flat value from having pops, so really this allows you to pop off in the early game despite us not having capital economy whatsoever. We're not making a ton out of these buildings anymore, but while those buildings are weak, that's going to make our tailors guilds really strong, and so we're back up to making 13 ducats here. So we put them both on auto expand, just generally going to get more value out of the capital, and so that's kind of why we're focused here in terms of what we are doing in terms of our eco. Our tax base is going to scale very, very closely with what we have going on in kind of our urban economy, because we don't have any monstrously standout RGOs. Like all of our RGOs are like base price 3, and okay, we're getting extra output here because the fertile Nile Delta, but we don't have any like 4+ RGOs here that are really going to kind of carry it, and so it's going to be basically all through production. We are also getting promotions out of all these places. I think this is something that's maybe worth like emphasizing and visualizing. We're getting a little bit of nobles. Where we're going to be getting a lot is the clerics. You can see the urban locations are starting to promote up a lot of clerics. It does take some time. You can see also we are going to be getting up in the burghers, and these pops are going to eat more goods. Currently, we are depressing the economy though. As we decrease aristocracy, we're getting less consumption from the nobility here, and so this is something that is not exactly good, but it is something that we want to do so that we can help to bring the burghers on up. They have a pretty high equilibrium satisfaction. Oh, Jesus, these guys' satisfaction's so low. I think... Oh, it's because we revoked the thing. But now we don't mind them getting a little bit of extra control. And so we can throw in stuff like Elite Council. The thing is, we're pushing Pluto right now, so we don't want to throw in Elite Council. But we will look for some stuff to give them that we are maybe a little bit into. Stuff like Noble Patronage of the Arts, just to try and bring their satisfaction back up a little bit. I think we'll have to give them 2 things that give happiness. To be fair, Elite Council is something we kind of want anyways, and it's just a little bit of aristocracy. Considering that we're thinking of yo-yoing back to aristocracy, that's maybe not a terrible one to be giving out. So we will give that out to them, and then they will be at 26 satisfaction and probably not rebel, considering we have just generally kind of some pretty good things for satisfaction. We still have quite a bit of stab, and so I think we'll be in good shape in that regard. We also can embrace professional armies. I think we're just going to sit tight and let the institutions spread. They're spreading pretty quick here, and once they occupy the Nile Delta, that'll basically be all of our population kind of in this little bit of a zone, and it's going to be spreading pretty quickly to the here. You can see it's not that many months before we have professional army accepted here, although when we do accept it, that will give us an additional 5%, what is it, 5%, ooh, our liturgical language so weak? Why is that? Excuse me? That's a little bit strange, but that'll give us more percentage research speed. Alright, so we get another one of these events here, which is going to give us 2 options. If this happens, I can't remember if this happens every single time we have a new ruler, but this is the option we're thinking of, disfavoring Sufis, which is going to, again, give us some of this monthly legitimacy. It's also going to give Sufi Shrine in a location for some time, which isn't really what we care about. We care about just decreasing the cost to our legitimacy, and so now... Okay, we're having to pay a lot for our cost of court. Wait, why are we paying more on this cost of court slider than we were before? Did we lose a modifier? We must have lost a modifier somewhere. But okay, we'll increase it until it gets us back up to 100, but then our maintenance cost is going to be extraordinarily low. We do pip this. I think that we're going to look to kind of have the heuristic of, we do want to increase a place with high population up to 30 dev. And so this place is getting relatively close to 30 dev, so maybe we host our parliament in here, and we will have some options. Dev the interior is a little bit intriguing because we can intentionally fail it and then go progress towards naval. And we're starting to get to the point where we don't need as much of this stuff as possible. I wish we had something better out of the nobles here, other than promote castle works. We could do support the state and boost our guy up. He is relatively young, and so maybe that is going to be good. We'll have a little bit of a think here, actually. Alright, I think we want enough support to click twice, and we want to move off of favor the clergy onto favor the wealthy, at least on a temporary basis, so for that plutocratic trend there, just in case we need to really push it quite a bit. Do want to be able to come back next parliament, ideally, and have the burghers inside of parliaments. And so I think that what we're going to do, where was the location we went for again? We went for this one here. We're going to just get the maximum support we can, which is through this, and then we will be able to law change and guaranteed be able to swap onto favor the ruler, or sorry, favor the wealthy, which incidentally we kind of do like the ability to tax the burghers more anyways, relative to the clerics, and so we will lose out on this. I think favor the ruler is what we would want to be on kind of semi-long term, but okay, we're going to get a law change there, and then we will be waiting again to try and do some stuff. A little bit of progress towards traditional economy is fine, so maybe we will get another click up here, but we'll see. Just kidding. The stimulus is back. The stimulus is a go-go. Now, before it used to give us a 13, now it's looking like it's going to be giving us even more demand for this stuff. I guess it's just up maybe 10%. I think it probably scales with the size of our economy, but that's going to be real nice. Getting that huge, mega big stimulus is going to be nice. So we also got a claim on the Karamanids with our parliament as well, and so we can use this on them. We did insult them so that they would be a little bit cheaper to go after them. We're going to try and see, unfortunately, threaten war. Looks like they're okay just giving us the bag, and so maybe, actually, since the Karamanids, maybe we made a huge mistake here. We could have created a historical subject here of these guys, and then demand flip them, flip their religion. We actually should have thought this through a little bit. Okay, let's make a religion. Let's go after these guys. We'll release them as a vassal, but we can feed them. They will have claims. We do not want to take all of their claims, though, is the big idea. But considering we have this war ability to declare war on these guys, we could just go after the parliament. Actually, I think if we threaten war and they give in to us, we just get the thing for free. The thing is, we have no antagonism on anyone whatsoever. They do just give up the bag if we ask for it, which, yeah, let's fight them. They just finished fighting the Ottomans, so they are completely exhausted in terms of their capacity. So we're just going to declare war on them and then let our subjects just run over them. I don't even think we'll mobilize here. It seems gratuitous. Our subjects will be able to get the job done without us, because they have, I think they have no ability to conscript up, so, yeah. Pretty quick peace deal here, where we are going to be doing a few things all together. We are going to be grabbing this to release as a subject. Notably, we're not grabbing all of it. That way, we will be able to form claims on this guy up in here in the north, and also the Ottomans, if the Ottomans decide to take a chunk of him, leaving these two locations out. This will also be coming in and releasable subjects as Hamid, which is going to be nice because this will give us claims on the Ottomans as well. We will feed our subject most of Adana, and in particular, we're going after this Hargan location. I do think this is actually a decent location for a market. I want to test it out. I think that this is one of the better locations for a market in the region, because you don't care about the region you're exiting from, and from Hargan, you will get access to kind of this area here, this kind of clearing area, which is going to have sea access, and so you will be coastal access, you will have a reasonable amount of market access here, and you also bridge the gap where otherwise going through this zone would be apocalypse mode into kind of this clearing that we have over here. And so grabbing that to hold for ourselves, to be giving as a market eventually. What we will do is we will feed to our vassals, we will feed them provinces that they already own. So this guy, for example, since he owns most of the province, we will be feeding him this location here. So that we will finish that off. And Hargan, we will look to create a market there. I don't think we will be able to create a market immediately. It does scale kind of with our income, but it doesn't have a small enough market access. So before we will be able to do that, we will have to urbanize it, which is a little unfortunate, but overall not going to be that big a deal. Now, mainly doing this for testing purposes, I don't think that us making a market in Hargan is necessarily the smartest thing to do at this juncture. Other than the fact that we are allowing ourselves to own markets, so to this extent it's valuable, but really just kind of want to see what happens here in Hargan when we make a market. Alright, so we're going to embrace Renaissance here. There is a little bit of a clock. I think that we're going to push plutocracy all the way to 95 if we can, for the purposes of flipping to a republic, which is decidedly better if we are playing uber tall and are going to be generating a lot of our money through trade, and we want to have colonization be kind of a cornerstone of what we're doing. So we will sacrifice the better army and the fact that we actually have a decent setup for staying monarchy, foregoing this, and because of this, we want to get on Renaissance as quickly as possible, so we're just going to embrace the Renaissance as soon as we can afford it, which will be at the end of the month here. And the big reason why is that the tech that allows you to, there is a tech that will give you additional rolls. We will go for this. There is a tech that will give you additional rolling, and we will pay for this. There is a tech that will give you additional rolling from the cabinet. Permanent cabinet will allow you to roll much more easily the privilege or the parliament, where you will get +10 trend towards plutocracy. So getting this as early as possible will help us to have more rolls and more opportunities to get the +10. And so that is why we are going to be going in that direction here. Now, to that end, we also have a bunch of techs queued up. We're going to cancel these, all of these that are not leading up to there. We can always pick these up later. It's not that big a deal, but we will be going for the Renaissance stuff first. And the Renaissance stuff really just feels like a straight shot, because once we have that, we will want university. This is going to give us some more literacy, which is going to be nice for increasing the consumption of those books. As we had mentioned, it's going to give us more pop promotion speed. This is something we're getting squeezed on. More local monthly literacy, allowing us to cap out, and institution growth for embracing the other institutions for quite a bit cheaper, we hope, because we ate this institution for 27 stab. So we will go for that. We will also go for the crown power, because a lot of our income is coming from trade. And then I think that the monthly diplomats is maybe even worth going for here, but probably the marches is going to be something that's interesting for us. Marches are actually quite strong, quite nasty. They do get a lot of defense, and so or they get like a lot of ability to kind of go for forts. I think that they have a decreased maintenance cost on them. Fort limit, fortification maintenance -10%. Curious if we went theocracy and we stacked -90% fort maintenance, which you can do, if these guys also get spat out as theocracies, because then they would have free fort maintenance. That'd be kind of a nightmare. So that's maybe something that's a little bit entertaining. I don't think we necessarily have to go for this. Really, the rural noble authorities, what we would be interested in, and this is a source of, you guessed it, fortification maintenance. So maybe would pair a little bit well, but I'm guessing we won't not want to go for it. Here's another source of, by the way, of that monthly legitimacy, if we were trying to stack it as much as possible, which would help us to not have to pay for this if we were to stay on monarchy. Kind of just a theme of the run, but this is another thing that we can go for. So this is also what we were getting at when we talked about how our subjects markets would get messed up if we didn't own it. Because we own Damascus, our subjects get pulled there, and so rather than going to the Constantinople or this market, it is instead going to be pulled towards our Damascus market and have virtually no market access, under 20% here, which is really, really painful. And so what we're going to be doing is we are going to be plopping one down in Hargan, now that we can afford it, which is going to be nice for us, and we will see just exactly what we get spat out with. Again, not sure that this market is good. I think that it's going to be good, but we will get to take a little bit of a closer look, and these guys off in the distance will instead be pulled into the Hargan market, which will be nice for us. It's almost complete here. I thought that it completed instantly for some reason here. You can see that our auto expands are kind of picking up some of the ducats here and continuing to move out. I think that we do want to take any sort of push towards plutocracy that we can here, so we're going to get a push of 5, which is going to be nice, trending towards 41 plutocracy. And with this, we will also get the Hargan market, which is going to be kind of nice looking from the looks of it. 92% access in here, 85, getting kind of decent spots here. And so if we look at the cost, it's going to be based on terrain. We don't really have too many rivers, or we are on a river, it's just not in the right direction here when we were kind of checking the river. Let's take a look at the Hargan market again and see what's looking like here. Where are we not going to get the river bonus on either of these? So where are we down, upriver, downriver for? Okay, so we will benefit because the river is flowing in the other direction. We are flowing this way. Interesting. I thought that we would be kind of... Okay, well, we're, I guess, the origin for this, and so we're flowing downstream in this way? Okay, well, the idea is we get a lot of access here then. Or the idea is we get access kind of in two directions, but we are getting 93% over here, 88%, so pretty good down here in this open clearing, and then we get a little bit at this edge, and we're not too disruptive to the Constantinople market, which I think incidentally should be moved to Smyrna, which gives this Hargan market a little bit more breathing space. Not a fan of the Thessaloniki market, and it really kind of squeezes the Ottomans market here, or the Constantinople market. It's kind of funny looking here, but I think I do like this Hargan market. Just going to really kind of get a lot of access to some of these areas, which can be decent production centers, and there's a decent amount of pop here on this side. There's a decent amount here. It does eat into the Damascus market, so maybe the Damascus market should be located somewhere else. And I'm also just generally not sure if, with this strategy, if we're supposed to prefer smaller markets here, but we will get a lot more access overall as a result of the Hargan market. We pip an event for plus 10 Pluto, which I don't think you can roll when you are really progressed towards Pluto, but now we have positive plutocracy trend. So the nobles will continue to demote as they have, but now our economy is going to get re-stimulated as the amount of burghers and towns and cities increases. You can see that they are demoting from us losing out on that last little bit of aristocracy, and now they will really start cranking up at the burghers, at the side of the burghers. And so really expecting to see these guys lose out on a lot of power as time goes on. It does take a while for these promotions and demotions to take place. Did they go from 28 to 26 right there? All right. But in either case, we're in pretty good shape, maybe, for being able to next parliament go for being able to slot in the burghers. I think we do want to just progress towards jurisprudence, just generally speaking here. We have a backslide towards mysticism that we have gotten as a consequence. You can see here we're 0.05 towards mysticism that we got as a consequence of this, but I do think the literacy is probably worth it. Maybe you're supposed to push jurisprudence a little bit more first actively. You can see this is down from 26 to 25, and the ulama coming back up, and so we are reaching closer and closer to the point where we can swap to theocracy, which requires this 35% estate power. And so very often kind of straddling the middle here is the easiest way to push enough progress towards the ulama here to be able to slot them in. We could even give them a couple privileges. I think that we probably don't need culture capacity, so we could just give this away. It will give them a little bit more power, so this eats into our crown power in a way that, like, maybe it's really not worth, because we don't really value the other stuff and it's not giving them happiness. So maybe we'll just stay on it with the understanding that just the nobles getting weaker is probably going to put us in a pretty good position to swap on over to theocracy, and then from there eventually transition to plutocracy or a republic. We get a new government reform. I think we're just not going to get very cute with it and go for the tax efficiency. We could go for a temporary kind of push towards free subjects, and maybe that would have been a little bit better for the 0.05 free subjects, but we want to be pushing plutocracy for a little while, and so I think just slotting this in right away is going to be nice to just benefit from that additional tax efficiency. Alright, so we do roll a parliament for decreased road costs, so we will be filling in the roads completely here, making sure we have roads in every single location, and also linking up some with the capital a little bit better. That way we can build a bunch of bridges, and also the roads are going to give additional growth towards development if we have them in place, and this is going to be quite nice for us because we are approaching like 30 dev in a lot of locations, which is going to be a lot more demand, and also demand scales linearly with dev, and so long-term dev plans are important. To that end, we're also adding a couple market villages in areas we think we are not going to urbanize. Our plan is to urbanize everything here, virtually everything with a couple of exceptions. We'll talk about those in a sec. But we are going to add some market villages. Also, adding market villages to our subjects is maybe not insane. We're adding one to our subject here, which they don't have that much prosperity. They're really not going to be gaining that much. Unfortunately, when we released our subjects, we didn't have a bunch of positive prosperity modifiers, so there is that. But we would like our subjects to gain more dev, and so the market villages will give potential burghers. The potential burghers will gain literacy, and with that literacy, they will gain a little bit of dev growth, like 10-15%. It's not nothing. It's kind of reasonable, but also building market villages in our subjects is attractive. As we get taller and we can afford more of those types of spammy type things, just spamming market villages in our subjects will be nice, especially if we have them diverting trade to us, because we will get half of that trade capacity that the market village gives, which, okay, it's not a lot, but it is something, and we will also be getting the benefits of them having more development. Similarly, if we're getting half the trade capacity and we run out of like trade capacity of our own, we can just feed it through our subjects at half price or half value. And so increasingly us kind of paying attention to what our subjects are building and kind of micromanaging our subjects economy will be more of a thing as this run gets deeper and deeper. But right now, we still have so much more we could do on our own front that this is going to be useful. Also very cool to watch the number of like clerics kind of spin up here. You can tell like how long it's been since we urbanized a location based on how many clerics it has for the most part, because all the pop amounts are so similar. And so you can see the really early urbanizations are already yellow. The starting urbanizations are green. These were also starting urbanizations. These were kind of like the next salvo. And then there was a little bit of a lull, but we are starting to really urbanize in heavily. The places where we don't want to urbanize is specifically like this location, because it eventually, Mediterranean climate is required for Columbian exchange, so these two places could Columbian exchange, and we are just going to use this as a really good Columbian exchange spot late game. And also, maybe we don't urbanize these rice, and maybe we don't urbanize the cotton, although the cotton may get a little bit stubborn and we have to urbanize it anyways. The reason behind this is we can do plantations in the sugar and the cotton, and plantations scale with RGO count. The only problem is employing plantations is difficult unless you build a slave center in a location, and in order to do that, you have to urbanize, so we'll probably be interested in that. But for the rice, have these be our only two breadbasket locations in the entire market, or in this entire delta, is maybe somewhat reasonable. They will produce an absolute insano amount of food. Currently, they're producing plus 186 food. So this is without us stacking a bunch of farming villages in that location. Looks like those were slaves. That's without us stacking a bunch of farming villages or a bunch of irrigation, both of which will act as force multipliers. And maybe it's just gratuitous to do that, considering currently we're sitting at plus 4k food. And this is one of the kind of really nice things about the Nile Delta is you with this farming modifier, this overcomes kind of like the negative effects of urbanization plus 33% food production. If we look at where's producing the most food, it's actually, last we looked, it was Cairo, which is plus 500, despite all this level of urbanization, which is quite a bit of a thing. And so I think that if we look at province food, yeah, they're all green here, despite us urbanizing so much. And so we really can urbanize everything. And this is one of the reasons why it's good for building tall, because on a per province basis or a per location basis, we are going to have more building slots than many other countries as a result of this enormous food capacity that we have out of the Delta, including rice, but including rice that gets plus 25% output, and this 125% total output. This is like multiplicatively useful with food percent modifiers. So if we do turn this into kind of something where we are going to be getting the food production modifiers, this is going to be quite strong. To that end, Since we don't know what we want to do with it exactly, we're just going to add market villages. So these get a little bit of burgers so that they can dev up as well. But other than that, basically just in order of who has the most pop, we will continue to urbanize. So next on the chopping block will be this guy, because they have a little over 100,000 pop. The pop, of course, scaling just how many promotions we're going to get per 1,000 pops. And the burgers are also scaling up. If we take a look here, we can see that we are getting some from a plutocracy as well. I think that's exactly 100 on the nose. The UI for that is a little bit funny. It's showing like a percentage thing when it's really just a flat amount. So we're getting like 400 burger potentials in here as a result of the pop. That doesn't really seem that high, but to be fair, we only have 8 plutocracies. So if we had 10 times as much, that would be, or maybe it's 4,000 potentials here. I think it's 4,000 potentials here as a result of this, just kind of like looking at the numbers. And so if we max it out, that's like 40,000 potential burgers, but it's also 500,000 pops here. And so that is going to be something that we will be using to stimulate the economy. And just to kind of check in on that, a fine cloth. When we checked in some time ago, like the demand was like 5, now it's 10, much bigger. Burgers demand quite a bit of it. And so burgers in general just have a higher, even though their demand is roughly 1/10 that of nobles, their demand is profiled much more closely to production-oriented buildings, and since that's the direction we're going anyways, eventually long-term, the stimulus we get from burgers will be a lot better. We could also take a look at the books. We were getting like 0.6 something from the clerics before, and now we're getting 0.85, so that is coming up, but really it's going to be a matter of getting these locations to 30 dev before we really get to feel the book's demand. Alright, while we wait for all of those roads, a stimulus on masonry to calm down on the masonry prices, I think we're going to use some of our income to relocate the market here. And we're going to relocate it to Manuf. Manuf is basically 2 locations away from nearly everything in here, and so we will be able to get everything to 100 market access much easier from Manuf. And if we take a look at the tax base kind of scrum here, we have a little bit more tax base value over in this direction anyways. Manuf will be further from the Europeans over here in terms of trade, so it'll take a little bit of extra trade capacity, and we might unrange ourselves. But the flip side is Alexandria is further from the other side of things, the ability to trade with India, so such that I kind of think it's a wash. And the extra access here earlier, we were kind of thinking that maybe is like somehow worth it, but it's not going to be. We're going to move it to Manuf, and so this is going to be nice for us. We will wait for a month tick to kind of see the updated thing, where we will see probably a little bit of a shift into the Damascus market. Ooh, we don't see... Oh, we do see a little bit of a shift. So the Damascus market does lose a few locations, which we're kind of fine with. And when we take a look at the market access here, we see 94, 97, you know, basically everything is going to be in the 90s, 98. And this is going to be now an amount where we can build around now that we know we're kind of have the market where we want it. We can add marketplaces in order to push ourselves up to maximum market access. And so if we take a look here in Cairo, we will have 96.27, so we're going to want another 8 marketplaces. And since this is the place that has the absolute most economy, we will just go for that and be able to make use of that. And now they will have 100% market access, so the market access will no longer be throttling the income we get from RGOs and the output we have here. Whereas previously we're making minus 4% output on all of these buildings, which is decreasing the effective tax base we can get from them. We will be now kind of better set. And so what we are going to do is we're just going to kind of eyeball things based on the tax base, and then we will see how much more they need. And we see this location is going to need 2.5-ish more market access. So that is going to be 1 more market access, 2 more market access, half more market access. And so we'll go around and add kind of as it seems good, 2 locations that are particularly going to have quite a bit of tax base. And so this is how we will check and bring up the entire region, but things are starting to look pretty good here. we get another one of these plus 10 events, which is really nice on the plutocracy front. And so that's going to be good for us here. Also, control is starting to really sink in and be pretty high everywhere. And this is without us moving the capital of Mamluk, which is in the cards, again, because we will have no silk production, because we are not actually expanding out. And so to the effect that this is giving us global silk production, not useful. And if we switch off monarchy, the legitimacy is no longer useful. It'll still be an excellent building, but all the adjacency kind of value that Mamluk is giving us from the perspective of the markets would be also available for us here. Also, we have all of these as towns in order to start getting the upgrading going, but once they become cities, that's an additional +5 control, and so you will see we will have decent 90s over the entirety of this region of really high population that is now gaining an increasingly large amount of tax base, basically just locked in here on the delta. I think we're just going to double embrace here on the institutions because this entire delta has been saturated. Even though we don't need the ability to research stuff, this will increase our research speed by a little bit, which will be nice for us, and so we will gain extra progress. Looks like the power of our liturgical language came up a little bit. I'm pretty sure we do have Arabic as our court language, and so really we should be able to, over time, slowly push this on up all the way, which is going to be quite nice for us. But I think we'll take a quick look at what we could do research-wise with the banking unlock that will be particularly good for us. I think we'll go for bureaucracy because we are trying to play kind of a long-term plan. Decentralized bureaucracy is going to help us with the dev growth, and so we will go in that direction, and then we will go for a trade range and pop promotion speed. Generally speaking, the Poundlock Canal is also going to be really nice for us, and we features right next to it a Red Sea trade from us, which is a tech we are very interested in, and so we'll head on down that direction, then go for the pop promotion speed. And I do think on this side of things that we do have a little bit more stuff we can go for. I guess it's over here towards the docks. We will have the all range, which we will go for here. We don't really need to navally propagate control, and so I think we maybe reevaluate once we kind of hit this point. We are still going to unlock marches soon, and so I think that we maybe kind of chill-ish on the expansion, but this is going to be what we're doing with the upcoming tech plan here. So obviously we're promoting or upgrading a lot of these cities because we want to get promotions in part, but we would be trying to saturate the buildings with what we have a little bit more aggressively if it were not for the fact that we really want to get rolling on a lot of our promotions, because we, for example, in Cairo have 23,000 burgers. We have pop promotions up to 38,000. And so being able to get all of these promotions going is really, really important, because it's not like we're going to get way, way, way more promotion speed. I do think plenty of opportunities. I think that this scales with the available promotions possible. And so this is helping to accelerate us, but it's going to be quite some time before, even with 159 a month, it's going to be quite some time before we get an additional 12,000 burgers. And that's not even including the fact that our plutocracy is still ticking up, and so this is going to be an issue everywhere. You can see this place, for example, 8,000 burger potentials. There's only 5,000 here, and we're not promoting up 160 there. We're promoting up 47. This is also one of the reasons why our clerics are kind of throttled here, right? We have potential clerics here of 1,800. We only have half as many here, and so we're putting a pretty big emphasis, whereas like other runs or other kind of starts, we spread out our urbanization. We don't urbanize as heavily. We choose to go for cities before upgrading stuff all the way. We could go for cities right now. That's not going to be our approach. We are going to continue to upgrade these as much as possible, as long as they're like over 50-ish thousand kind of pops, or they're approaching something kind of approaching the capacity that they have in a location, because a lot of deserts are going to be doing just that. We will be pretty aggressive about promoting so that they can start getting on up with or urbanizing so that they can start getting on up with their promoting. One of the things that is really painful here is just how much we're making off of the cotton. The cotton is making us quite a lot of money. I think we still want to urbanize the cotton. It's just like, it feels really bad. We even built a market village because we were like, maybe we hold off this type of thing. But I think it's just I think we have to do it knowing that eventually what is going to happen is we are going to build slave centers here, we're going to build plantations here, and the way we're going to build plantations is by shipping our capital somewhere across the world, at least to make this an eligible location for us to build plantations, then just maxing out the plantations and then shipping our capital back home where it belongs. And so to that end, we are going to urbanize up the cotton as well. We're going to urban up this cotton, kind of choosing the locations that are going to most need some of this upgrade. And I really don't think we're going to run out of food. Another reason to keep this urban and this location urban is it will be able to get quite a bit more iron from the bog iron smelters, and so maybe there's something here to this regard, but I think we're just going to take the stimulus. The only location that really doesn't have over 50k pop in this area is this fish here, which I don't think is Colombian exchangeable, because I do think that it's climate driven, where specifically the arid climate they don't want a Colombian exchange into, so we will continue promoting on up and just pushing all of these. We also have some auto expands on the lumber because we are starting to get squeezed a little bit on it, but trying to be a little bit timely here and push these promotions up into town. So really urbanizing here to help us to build tall later, or to set us up for this. And we are also dev provincing this as well. We are not assigning a cabinet member because we want to assign a burgher. We cannot yet assign a burgher until we change our parliament. And this is again kind of emphasizing why changing the parliament is important. We need to get to 20%, and then we will be able to assign a burgher once we give out the privilege for it, which we cannot do represented in parliament until after we have the burghers in parliament at the very least, because we need to have a better we have to have the estate parliament type, which we don't. It's kind of a little bit marginal, but the universities will be helping us with the pop promotions. The thing is, they're going to give us 10 flat in spots where we have plenty of opportunities, but I guess some of these spots have a low enough a number of opportunities. It'll really help us to kind of squeeze out the last little bits. I've also just been really watching quite closely the level of clout here on the Ulama, getting kind of ready to pull the trigger. Also, the Umara steadily decreasing, and the burghers starting to get a little bit more kind of in there, not quite up to 20%, so that we can put them in the parliament, so that's a little bit unfortunate. We also get the first guy that we can invite, and we low roll. I think that 5% research isn't good enough, so we'll just hold off. Not entirely sure what mechanic drives these guys coming in, but we would prefer, what we really want is to be able to swap our school to the dev one, although trade capacity 10% is a decent and solid enough one to have. We are putting the Sultan here in charge of the Navy. The reason for this is we are starting to push naval. Mainly just want this to reduce the... We don't really care too much about the effect that it's going to be giving us from a proximity standpoint, but we do want the trade range reduced overseas. This might be a little bit of a leak, though, because we can get, as a Sunni pop, or as a Sunni nation, we can get a decent amount overland, and we can trade with, like, a bunch of these markets inland, so maybe this isn't even worth it. The main idea behind both land and naval is because this really helps with your infrastructure. But we don't actually need that much infrastructure because we're not trying to stretch anything really that far. And so it creates this thing where maybe this actually isn't even that useful. So actually, let's change things up a little bit. And instead of encouraging naval, we're going to encourage innovative. We would like to get this additional literacy. That would be pretty nice. We are doing pretty well in the literacy department on a global scale. Just kind of rivaled by, or surpassed by, the Papal States. But other than that, we're in really good shape with all of these libraries coming in. Everything's going to have a library. Everything's going to have a university. The literacy is going to increase really fast, and we're going to have 30s everywhere without too much time, except for the couple of locations that we haven't gone for yet. We are waiting on some price collapses before going for some more cities. We're building bridges everywhere. A lot of stuff is coming in, and the idea behind the cities is we are going to be looking to, with the idea that we're probably moving the capital to Manuf after swapping theocracy, we want to make kind of a little bit of a triangle where from Dalmatia to Manuf and from Alexandria to Manuf we have a line of cities. That way we can build pound lock canals to these and just kind of get the biggest bang for our buck infrastructure wise. Cities also will give more pop promotion speed, so this is kind of nice considering the flat amounts that we are getting from plenty of opportunities. The 25% on top of that is kind of nice. But we're also getting a lot from free subjects now. We finished our free subjects push. 59% is going to really allow us to crank things up. We can see the burgers, their cap is now up to 44k. I think we were at 20-some k and the cap was 30-some k. They're up to 44k, so they are going to continue to promote up. We still have some ways to go, and this isn't our highest pop location, but we are almost done promoting clerics in here in Cairo. So that is going to be nice for us, which means that we will probably... the Ulama will probably peak soon. The burgers will probably keep going. Burgers are almost at 20% clout, so this is going to be quite nice. We have for our parliament, it was a little bit of while ago, so pretty soon here we'll probably intentionally tank our crown power so that we can swap up onto theocracy, and then theocracy will give us tools to push plutocracy a little bit more as well, in addition to just being very, very strong in its own right. Probably better than plutocracy. It's probably better, or Republic might be better in the scenario where we are specifically playing with just only one region, which is what we're doing. But just in the abstract, I think theocracy is probably a little bit better, but it's going to be forever until we get this 95 plutocracy to be able to swap onto a Republic, and theocracy is just kind of right here. Just as we're kind of prepping Manuf, we get hit with this, which is going to be giving us this madrasa, which is capital only in Cairo, which would give us 5% research speed. So we have to think of, is this 5% research speed worth the trade-off, or should we go with Cairo? I think when we are only one region, it still might be better to go Manuf, but if we were not constrained to one region, Cairo is quite a bit closer to the Red Sea, so to the extent that we could push naval down into here as part of like a long-term strategy, Cairo is a better capital for the purpose of doing this. But in either case, we will fund the restoration here, because even if this is not going to be in the capital because we moved the capital, we're kind of okay getting monthly literacy and max literacy in Cairo, our highest pop location, because this is going to pull up our average literacy quite a bit, and so we will fund that building and get it going. Maybe this is what we were thinking of, is that there's multiple buildings that we can kind of have. Unfortunately, we keep getting mysticism events, which is not what we want. I mean, we like the tax efficiency, but the mysticism events make it now so that even if we do get a jurisprudence guy, we won't be able to... we shouldn't be able to slot him in. I'm not sure why we could slot that gentleman in, but we're still waiting on someone a little bit more useful. Also, with a lot of what we've gone with the Spiritualist, one really nice thing about Spiritualist is the super, super high primary religion tolerance, especially that's going to be nice for us, leading to really good satisfaction locations. So just like a little bit of a check-in on what we're doing in terms of prosperity, we're up at 80% now with the amount with the addition that we are getting from free subjects. Haven't gotten decentralized bureaucracy yet. That'll bring us up to 90%, and then our unique tech will bring us up to 100%. So we might just not look to push free subjects anymore. This 60%, this might be good for us because it's hurting our max tax. It is helping us out with the food promotion, food stuff, but we might not need promotion speed very much soon. And so just this 0.14 prosperity is what we're after. And so this is one of the few values where pushing it 100% of the way is maybe not necessarily correct, but at the same time, overcapping it a little bit is probably okay. So we're about where we want to be on that. Alright, so roughly half-ish, or 40% of the crown power we lose is going to be gained as power for the ulama here. And the reason for that is 30% is currently going to the crown power. There is 70%, and of that 70%, ulama is getting 30%. So roughly 40-ish% of the estate power, or the estate power portion, is going to the ulama here. So what we're going to do is we're going to intentionally tank our our crown power here by getting rid of our general and our admiral, so that's minus 50% crown power. We will peel off a month. I don't think this is going to be anywhere close to enough, but just kind of want to eyeball and see maybe just how many loans we're going to need to take out. The ulama are up to 33%. The crown power is down 5% here, and so what we are going to do is now we are going to take out some loans. Not because we want to float loans, because we don't want to float any loans, but maybe 7's okay. With these loans, what we will get is a negative crown power malice. If we take a look at the crown power, we will see a penalty to them from current debt minus 13%. And so we will see just how intrusive this is, especially this is going to be stronger the fewer crown power modifiers you have. We don't have a tremendous amount because we're still kind of close to the start of the game. And so this should decrease our crown power some. It decreases it down just 2%. So we're probably going to need another 14-ish loans. Every loan we take, we are going to be hemorrhaging money. That's around 14, something like this. And so that will be bad for us to some extent, and also this is going to help us to get the burghers above 20%. The reason we're doing this now is because we are about to hit our next parliament. I think on this month, there's the parliament, and so crown power is down to 20, the ulama are up to 35% power, and so this is going to be a theocracy swap potential for us. Looks like we're just shy of here, so we could probably just swap theocracy and wait a month. And so we can come here and we can reform into a theocracy. Pretty big investment here, but I think we're going to go for it. And now we don't care about legitimacy at all because there's really no downside to throwing your slider. It's just a little bit of a state satisfaction equilibrium, but you just completely lose out on having to go cost of court. So we should be able to wait a month, or maybe we gain access to a little bit more stuff. I think eventually we're going to want to push capital economy, so why don't we put in guild investments right now? Because we know that we want to push that, and then what this will do is next month we will have enough to slot the burghers in. So making some moves here. We are idling our parliament effectively for a month, but I think that that's fine. This is going to get us up to 22%. That is quite a bit of a jump. Maybe we shouldn't have slot that in, but now we are going to be able to do this, and we are going to be able to go a state parliament, and that's going to be nice for us. We will have a state parliament, and so now I think that's not yet 30. Ooh, we get our first 30 here. So these other these other three provinces are coming up. We are deving them, but that is going to add up to some additional demand. We could even take a look and just show it off right now. If we hover here and then hover here, because you need to hover all the things, we should be able to see book demand. Oh no, we don't see it in there yet. Maybe it's just gotta take a little bit of a while to kind of put in. I think last we checked there was a little over 1 book demand from burghers. Now there's 1.6 book demand. Fine cloth also maybe worth noting. I think we had 10 total demand, and now we have 12 demand just from the burghers. So it's coming on up here. But I think we do Dalmatia there, and we probably want to... Oh no, wait. We don't want to do this just yet. I think we're going to need to peel another month because what we had done is we put this guy in to help boost the power of the clergy, but we don't actually want this guy in. We want a burgher guy in. We want a burgher king. And so what we're going to do, we're going to be able to now do representative in parliament here. And also with this, I do believe we will be able to get the guys into cabinet, if I'm not mistaken. And so let's take a look and see if there's any guys who we can change this guy out for. So we'll come to cabinet, we will go cabinet member here, and we will sort by burghers. I felt like there was a state privilege we had to put in first. Maybe it's represented in parliament and then represented in the cabinet, something like this. But I thought that I could have sworn that there was one. Yeah, we needed to have commoners in administration. We already have them in administration. We just don't have any. We don't have any burgher characters. It's bad for us because we really want a burgher character to be able to roll stuff. We could double check, see if we have a burgher character. We'll just come to people, sort by, or go to characters, sort by burgher. We have 2 burgher characters. Right. Okay. Well, that's a vibe. Alright, so let's put in some of our theocracy stuff, starting with this tax efficiency. There's a world where we can just stack minus 90% fortification maintenance. Actually, the subjects we release will have the stuff that we have. And so maybe we actually want to do that, because if we release marches, they're going to be really obnoxious, because they will have free forts. Marches with free forts sounds funny. So even if the tax efficiency is slightly better, which it might be, we're going to go for this. So that'll be nice for us. We will also be able to slot in a new thing, because one of our things got deslotted. Interestingly, the Mamluk government type stays slot in. That's kind of a downside we are hoping to overcome. We would like to probably do harbor administration. Maybe not even harbor administration. Because we really... the world where we're just only caring about the land propagation here is, like, kind of a strange one for the Mamluks, but we're just, like, not expanding out, and we're not going to expand out, so... kind of weird to think through, but maybe we don't care about harbor administration. Okay, so for our other thing, we will have this a little bit of a Swiss Army knife. This is really nice for both pushing spiritualist and pushing naval, if we want to push naval, but we can go for mission of protection right now for our fortification maintenance. Incidentally, we can also... eventually, if you get it under minus 20%, you could just spam a whole bunch of forts, and this is pretty nice from the perspective of creating buy orders, but it doesn't really pick up until age like 4 or 5 when you get bastions, so maybe this is not quite the way we want to go, considering we might want to push naval for the overseas discount. I think that the overseas discount will get better the more of it we can stack, and we can't stack it early. So let's go mission of protection, just because our marches will get released with it, and we just know that we will be able to swap off of it if we want. And then I do think that we have a couple other things to show off. In particular, we are really going to value control of the borderlands. Minus 20%, minus 10% proximity cost through land. That is spectacular for us, and so we will go ahead and slot that in. We will have a lot of satisfaction to add on to the nobles. We will add this on eventually. We don't really need it right now, and it's nice to have a little thing that you can pip up the nobles support with, and so we will hold off. We can go nobility control serfdom too as well. That will be useful for us. I do think we get something in here that's kind of useful. Was it this? I thought we could have sworn we got something else from Theocracy that was reasonable, but I do think that that's the kind of lion's share of what we could do with them. We'll go for hunting permits too. So that'll be... and then, since we are under 20 devotion, what will happen is we will actually just pip an event. And that event will... here, let's go Tolerance of Heathen Police. We have a kind of a decent chunk of heathens. That event, what it will do is it will just give us plus 20... or up to 40, I forget exactly if it's plus 20 or up to 40 when you pop it. There it is, the Secularists Among Us, which will give us a chance to swap back to Monarchy, not exactly what we want to do, or will just give us 20 free devotion. And so we get to completely throw this devotion slider, and we will just basically be constantly minus 4% all estate stat, but with that investment, we just get to ignore this. We don't have to pay for this at all, which is a pretty big deal for us at this juncture. And so now you can see that we are killing more and more our slider cost here. We will also repay as much debt as we can, because we don't want to have that, because it's affecting crown power, which is affecting our trade income, which is a lion's share of our income. And we will also, on these guys, we'll have this absolute Chad Lord. And I think we're going to put him in charge of the boats, because everyone knows that once you go theocracy, there's a very specific government type that evolves from a theocracy, right? And that government type is, of course, the admiral election. And so with that in mind, by making this guy in charge of the boat, and he's the only guy in the charge of the boat, he should take over as heir. Unless there's some funny business with the Mamluk specifically, he does. So now we have an absolute banger heir that will be kind of coming up. We repip this event because we are under 20 devotion, so we will get the devotion back. And so we can basically just freely throw out a whole bunch more privileges as we would like to. Our crown power is back up. Our kind of amount of money we're making is back up. We do have to repay 1k worth of payments, but with that dip, we were able to get this to 35%, and now it's back down to 30%, which is where it was before. So nice little move there, and also the burgers are below 20% again, and so can make these moves with the crown power in a way that is pretty useful to us, especially when we don't have a bunch of modifiers from tech yet, because this means we can remove a majority of the modifiers. The one that we couldn't remove is pulling this guy out of being head of cabinet, which otherwise would be reasonable, but can't do that. Also, of all the kind of standard gov types, Theocracy has the best tech. The big one, Possible Clerics. This is Possible Clerics per 1,000 pops, and it does not require urbanization. Now, we're purely urbanized, so this is less of a big deal, but this is going to be quite a lot of additional stimulus, and that's how we're like pushing up our economy. Also get, I think, the most military techs. We had tactics, we get morale here. I think we have another one that is a military-oriented tech, manpower down there, and so really a whole lot of stuff, but it is 20 clerics per 1,000. Let's just check exactly what we're getting from Spiritualist. And so we are getting 20 per 1,000, but only in towns and cities. So this is going to double the effect that we're getting from Spiritualist. And this is one of the reasons why I do think Theocracy is going to be better. So even though we're planning on going Plutocracy eventually, I think we're going to research Servants of God here, because we just want those additional clerics, man. And so that will really increase the number of like upper rung pops we have. It's not really too big a deal that it's pretty far back in the queue, because we're still promoting up the potential clerics we have for additional stimulus. I think if we take a look at who is eating some of this stuff, yeah, the clerics are still eating a very big chunk of what's going on here. The nobles barely eating any at all, but we don't have any scaling nobles. We don't have any pop scaling nobles. So just kind of a little bit of an update on the way things look. If we take a look at nobles, they're overwhelmingly here with our kind of capital buildings. If we take a look at the heat map for clerics, they are starting to pick up in all these locations. You can see the promotions are starting to take effect. And then if we look at burgers, it is going to be kind of similar idea. They do promote up a little bit faster. Promotion speed is affected by kind of what segment they're in, but pretty soon they will all be coming on up, and this is really quite a few amount of burgers, and so this is also going to pressure our food. So remember, before we were at like positive 4k, we're now at 3.5k, still in really good shape. Still the fact that we have a combination of being able to go irrigation if we want to, and like mono farmland, really enabling this super tall urban structure that we are able to just push here. And so and we're trying to push it a bit more aggressively to kind of showcase what we can set up here. We unlock bureaucracy law, which is going to be a big one for us, because we will get decentralized bureaucracy here, allowing us to go up to, I think, around 90 in terms of our prosperity here. Currently at 80, we're going to get another bit of ticking here once that law fully sets in. It's not set in right now, so it's not going to propel us to 90, but that's going to be good for both pop growth and dev growth. The source of dev growth for a lot of countries is going to be primarily on the prosperity, and so we're getting that onto a much higher number. Now, we have this war here with the Karamanids, and Ottomans just joined in, which is fine with us. We snaked away, kind of separate piecing the Karamanids here, snaked our way to our subject over here, and what we are looking to take is kind of this little bit of land here, going off on the Ottomans, taking some of their dirt that is far away from kind of the action, using the war score on these guys. I don't think we want to tangle too much with the Ottomans. Their troops are a little bit tough. We lose a decent amount of guys with them, and we're not slave raiding them either. But what we're getting here is going to be two markets in the future. One market right now, actually. We're taking this market for ourselves. We'll be releasing this guy as of March, and then we are getting Smyrna and this other location. We had to take this other location to take Smyrna, because otherwise the guy's like, hey, you're cutting me off. And so we're going to take that, and we're going to hold on to this. We're just not going to like develop it or use it too much. But the idea is in a future war, we will be able to take Bursa and move it on over to Smyrna. Actually, no, this might get in the way, actually, of that plan. So we will have to not take that We will have to not take that. What will happen is this place, because it's ours, will attract Smyrna. We need Smyrna to be inside the Bursa market for this to work. And the idea is that next war we have with the Ottomans, we will move Bursa to Smyrna, and then we will have that for ourselves. So, because we are keeping market capitals. Although this creates like weird gameplay patterns, although this entire like project of one region only is kind of a strange thing. So what we'll do is we'll actually not take this, but we want Lower Macedonia here, I think, because we are going to release it as a very obnoxious very obnoxious march here, which is going to build a bunch of forts, because their march will, as far as I know, be released as a theocracy. And so the fact that these guys will be a theocracy will mean that they are going to inherit not all of the possible decreases in fort maintenance, but they are going to inherit at least 3 or 2 from us. The fortification maintenance minus 20%. They will also, from March, have minus 10%, and we have another law kind of kicking around somewhere that is giving another minus 20%. We don't yet have... and maybe, actually, there's an argument for us not releasing them just yet until we get rights of the nobility, because once we have rural noble authority, that's another minus 20%, so that's total minus 60%, then minus 10% from what they have in terms of their flavor, and there's like minus 10% in the tech tree somewhere, and then if we have or release them with a lot of defensive value, that's also going to give them, you know, minus... eventually minus 20% if they have 100 defense. And so that leads up to fortification maintenance minus 100%. So they get free forts. And when the AI has free forts, they spam the bejesus out of them. So this is something that is really obnoxious. Now, we haven't released them just yet, so we could hold off. I thought we did release them. We could hold off to release them, but it's going to get harder and harder, so we're just going to create a subject now. This is fine. We're going to come here, we're going to release March, and we are just going to... I think we actually have to put someone in charge. We'll put her in charge. I don't think it makes too big a difference. And now, let's double check that this is in fact a theocracy. That these guys do get that government type rather than they are bishopric, so they do get the March government type. And this is probably really strong on Catholics, just in general. They're Shia, though. Bruh, why are you... Oh, we put a Shia in charge of a Sunni nation, right? Another thing is that they will very quickly convert all of this up, which is mixed bag, because we kind of would love them to take slaves and then ship the slaves back to us, but also they're just going to spread the faith, which of course we're a fan of. And this will be something that is a thorn in the side of the Ottomans, Serbians, Bulgarians, the like, because it's just going to be a mess of a ton of forts. The one concern that there is that if Serbia or Bulgaria deck on them, we will have difficulty finding access. So let's improve relations with the Ottomans in the hope that if we do get in a weird situation, we can find access through there. Also, if we have access through the Ottomans, we have land access all the way back here. So from the Ottomans, we could march to Bulgaria, and so maybe we want to play a little bit nice with the Ottomans despite, you know, just fighting them a little bit. But expansion for us is going to be worth a lot less, because we are not planning on ever, like, integrating anything and having anything more than just this region in Egypt here. Also, maybe a little bit of an update on kind of how much we are taking into this market in terms of trade capacity. We still have the flat 4, plus an additional one. It looks like one of our estates built this, and the additional gravy that we are getting from divert trade is now 0.6 trade capacity. So it's still not feeling all that great. This feels a lot better doing it on the colonies, especially because the colonies have a lot more loyalty, and so that is something that is like long-term what we are going to be moving towards. And so I think that we should also probably get ready to start exploring this. We're going to need more wharfs for that, and so let's go and add the wharfs, and the idea being is we want to be able to spawn colonization, so wharfs are going to help out, and they are also going to be useful from the perspective of propagating control. Not that we really care too much about control outside of this scrum, because we're not expanding, but getting a little bit more control down here is kind of okay, and getting a little bit of control over here is kind of okay, but we're still basically just ignoring the region and just using it for their RGOs and the like. And so that'll work for us. We have a couple of auto expands now also on tools. The auto expands are mostly carrying what's going on. We have auto expands coming in for lumber, this type of stuff. But our city upgrades are also coming in. Things are moving along. So our innovative push is over now. And we kind of have a couple options. We can push defensive. If we are stacking this fort reduction, we actually would want defensive because then we could use forts for economic stimulus and also just be kind of a nightmare to attack. Not that we are easy to attack anyways, but I think that another thing that we do want to push eventually is traditional economy. The thing is right now we're actually benefiting a little bit from this pop capacity. This percentage pop capacity is giving us a little bit more population growth. The raw materials output is a strong modifier. It's a really strong modifier, and I don't know if we have enough economy that is non-traditional for this to be useful, especially because capital economy, the big thing it's giving you is prod efficiency. Especially in the second age, this effect falls off in the third age. But the amount of production efficiency you get just from economies of scale is really high when you have a really high pop nation, which we do. So I'm not entirely sure we want to push it immediately, so I think we're just going to push defensive here. But we could swap up. Right now we're holding on by a thread to our traditional economy. As long as we are not intentionally pushing towards cap economy, we probably want as much traditional economy as possible because these modifiers are good, other than the increased building cost. And that is one of the reasons why we haven't swapped this off of first come, first served, because if we swap this to infrastructure most profitable, we get that 0.05 cap economy trend. And so when we want to swap cap economy, this is the last piece of the puzzle that we would need to put in to start that going. And so just wanted to kind of point out we have kept that for some time. I generally don't like swapping off of it early because if you just don't overbuild in places, it doesn't make too big a difference. And with the Black Plague and with all the stab costs and stuff like this, don't want to eat the 10 stab it takes to swap unless you are using it specifically to push a particular value. Your most profitable first is actually going to give you the biggest cap push or capital economy push, so it's probably worth pushing from that perspective. We could have actually used this to push communalism a little bit more in retrospect. But okay, we have it on first come, first serve. We could also view it from the perspective of wanting to get off of first come, first serve. You can see it is also giving us traditional economy. So this is actually keeping us pretty well locked in on the traditional economy by not going off of it. And to be fair, that 20% output on RGOs, though, a little bit less valuable for us in the aggregate because we already have so many of these modifiers, but it is really making a lot of this really high value. And so we're still getting quite a bit out of it, even though all of this is getting more and more urbanized. Although, probably after pushing defensive, we'll start pushing cap economy. In theory, I think we do want to be somewhat cap economy pushed for the third age, like, inflection point, where we end up getting paper and printing press workshops. I think this is a point where this run will really pop off. I don't know if we continue that long, but that's a pretty big inflection point. Something that is also maybe notable about marches is, okay, they're going to pay us 10% of their income instead of 20% of their income, so that's a little bit less for us, and so all things equal, we might not like that. They do have this extra discipline, but they also do not give us any progress towards decentralization. So you can have a centralization run where you have a bunch of marches. The marches will not interfere with that, which is something that is maybe a little bit interesting. We don't really have too many marches, so we're going to be a little bit liberal about giving them out, but we would not want to, like, long-term have a bunch of marches with the plans of annexing stuff, but the plan is not to annex the stuff, so it doesn't really matter. We are going to create a couple of new subjects here, redistribute some of the lands that we have, just holding on to stuff like the market capitals as we had planned, as well as this little plan to... Oh, did they get pulled in the wrong direction? No, Smyrna is still in the spot. Oh, we would have to fight these guys for their market if we want to move it over there. Actually, I think that what we can do is we can embargo Bulgaria and or try and get market access preference to the Ottomans in order to be able to handle this. But did want to just note that if we had all entirely marches instead of a combination of vassals, fiefdoms, and marches, we would be able to push centralization, giving us 50% crown power, which would be nice for our trade income, which is going to be increasingly a large portion of our income. We're getting 40 ducats now. We have like 20 or 30 marketplaces in the queue here, and with the 140 trade capacity that we have, we're getting a profit of 125. So the profit's dipping a little bit, but as we trade more, we're also going to increase the value of the tax base of our buildings. So there's going to be a symbiotic relationship because we're doing stuff like exporting a fine cloth. We're going to probably increasingly add to the exports of our finished goods so that we can pull our economy more in that direction, because increasingly where the tax base is going to be coming from, we basically expanded out all the RGOs. And that has been a big source of our tax base up until now. But as we add more and more buildings per kind of what is allowed here, the 130 plus buildings in all of these locations are going to be able to produce more tax base than the RGOs are going to be able to produce. And so we are going to be moving in the direction of more capital economy orientation and this type of thing, which is why we want to shift onto it eventually. And so in order to help facilitate that, we would like to just kind of eat our own RGOs, not ship these out, and you do this by promoting a bunch of pops. As we promote much more upper tier pops, they're going to eat a bigger proportion of the sugar here. You can see that each 1,000 nobles, clerics, burghers, they're eating the sugar, and right now we're exporting a bunch, but we're getting a bunch of promoted pops. And then the finished goods, we will want to move more towards exporting, and currently we are exporting, we're actually pulling what looks like quite a bit of incense, which I think actually might be a little bit of a new phenomena. Mecca is pulling the incense to themselves and then from India, and then we are pulling from Mecca, it looks like. We are also on the verge of being able to do this ourselves. I think with the next month tick, we will finish this tech out. And so I think that might give us the last little bit of trade range. And this is before we get Red Sea trade, which is going to be nice. If that doesn't do it, Red Sea trade almost certainly will. But why don't we just take a little bit of a check? And yeah, now we can reach all the way down here. So what we will probably end up seeing with our trade capacity, which we just got a bunch added, is that we will be pulling pepper, or be able to pull pepper, pick a peck of peppers, and bring it on over to us, which we will be able to push out towards the rest of Europe as well. And so probably see an ability to support a greater amount of trade capacity here and have it be profitable. You see the profit went from in the 120s to up to the 150s. Now, as pepper prices drop, that will not hold, but that will be nice. So we will continue to add more and more trade centers, and as you can see, we are getting more and more locations around here, up to 99.5 plus market access, which is the idea behind where we are building them. We are building an amount of marketplaces required to pull these places up to 100 market access, so we will have full 100 market access in the entirety of the Delta. Now we're just kind of looking to try and get full 100 control. I think even if it's incorrect, we might just move the capital to Manuf just to kind of showcase this 100-100 stack of both market access and also of control just all throughout the Delta. There is another reason to keep the capital in Cairo here, and we actually made a little bit of a mistake, or they've updated the game, but we don't have, I thought we had a royal court, which gives, monarchy building gives 10% crown power, but this building provides bonuses if you build it as a monarchy. You cannot build it as a theocracy, but it just stays if you had built it before, and this is giving us the monthly diplomats, and if we move to Manuf, we will not have access to that. So in theory, if we wanted to do this move, what would have been better is to move the capital from Cairo to Manuf before we swap onto theocracy, rather than after we swap onto theocracy. So this is the other source I was struggling to remember that we probably wanted to release our marches with: garrison system government reform. We've been sitting on a free government reform for some time, kind of wanting to maybe hit harbor administration, or even bank ledger system, but we're so far off of that. I think we're just going to go with garrison system, especially because we're pushing defensive right now. That's going to allow us to push defensive quite a bit easier and give us more discounts on the forts. So we're getting 40% right from theocracy, pay an additional 10% here, so that's minus 50%, and then we can get an additional, well, we've been talking about this, but an additional 20% from the law for the nobles, and kind of stacking all of these up together. So moving our capital cost 4k before, now it costs 700k because we did a month of getting no income, so we will ramp this back up. This is a cute little trick. We are going to move to the capital to maneuver, mainly just to kind of demonstrate an idea rather than, I think, it being better, because I think that the monthly diplomats really push it over the edge. All the things we've been talking about for keeping the capital in Cairo, especially in a normal Mamluks run, I think it's worth it to keep there, but we just want to move it over to maneuver, so that is going to be what we do. We also canceled all of our trades because that is a big source of our income, just the automated ones, because we didn't want to brick our active ones that we had kind of thought through, and so we will see the automation kind of pick back up like 100-ish trades, but we might take this time to put in a few more active trades ourselves. We, for example, don't want to be producing coal, so we are importing it even at a loss, because this is a rural kind of oriented thing. We're entirely urbanized. We would really like to source this from somewhere else. We are trying to export all of our fine cloth because this has a really nice production chain for us where we have bonuses in a lot of places to producing regular cloth. The regular cloth goes into the fine cloth quite well. If it were not for the amount of fine cloth we were be producing, you can see where our demand is coming from. The needs of our guys are like 12, and now we're getting exports. These exports only count for half demand, but they are just additional demand. So it's allowing these places to be more profitable, which is going to allow them to stay open. You can see we're plus 10 on how much we're getting here in the market, and we can even pin the cotton too. But one of the issues with the cotton is that there's very little demand. In fact, I'm not sure what's going on there. I think that we need some of those buildings. Why don't we pin this so we can keep a closer eye on it, because the cotton needs to be demanded by these. We don't want the PMs to be swapping off of this, and so what PM? They are using the cotton. But this is the idea. I guess it's just not completely registering that 25 cotton's being eaten here. I'm not sure why we didn't see more cotton. Maybe it's just a fiddliness where we just need to wait a month tick. But this is what we mean, is that our cotton industry is supported by our fine cloth industry. And so supporting the entire industry by exporting the end chain is something we're interested in. And while exporting stuff will decrease the price, if there are burger exports, there are not burger exports here. So no, we're not overriding any more exports. We're just creating additional demand. And so we'll actually come in here and we'll probably look to just every place that is reasonably profitable, and this is if we put all of 100 of our trade capacity in there. Everywhere that is reasonably profitable, maybe we look to add an additional trade capacity. I think I like the idea of just places that don't have any trade going on, we just add one additional trade. That way we can be the source of their fine cloth, which will push down the price of fine cloth in their market a little bit, which will make it less lucrative an opportunity for them as well. And so kind of just these that are on top, we'll just add a little bit of extra cloth before all of our additional trades kind of sink in and get back automated after this little bit of a bump from moving the capital to Manuf. Now, in the instance of Parliament's Promote Castle Works with us trying to push defensive, this is going to be pretty nice. And I think that we actually might have, if we take a look at our modifiers, fort maintenance costs, we might have enough that we want to start building forts just for economic stimulus. Probably not quite that close. It looks like we don't have the right fortification maintenance as the modifier. We have minus 43% right now, trending up towards minus 50%. All of our buildings we are paying an amount on that is 20%, and then modifiers are applied, this type of thing. And so for these, we don't really mind paying because this is giving us economic stimulus. This is kind of fine with us because this is overall going to be net positive for the economy, I think, with our current setup. It depends on the numbers. But if fortification maintenance starts to become like 10% or whatever, it starts getting really good. It does buy tar, though, or the forts do consume tar, which the consumption profile is maybe not ideal for us in the general sense, but it creates extra demand for weapons and tools, so it means we can build more weapons and tools ourselves. It also the castles, at least, produce 2 possible noble or 20 possible nobles. So this is roughly the equivalent of 200 burghers worth of stimulus just from the nobles. And okay, maybe the local nobles' power is kind of a bit of a negative modifier, so it's kind of more of a wash, but really it's with the next upgraded version of the castle that I think it gets a lot better with the Bastion, because the Bastion kicks out the tar demand and this type of thing. I don't think we're going to be playing deep enough to really get to fully leverage this, but this demand profile is much better for inducing more demand for goods for us to produce ourselves. So this is going to be pretty big for us. Normally, this is not a power spike for most countries, but because we already have so many cities produced, this is going to allow us to kind of build into a line here in various areas and gain this extra proximity, which is going to be nice. You can see that we're already getting 100 control in a few locations here, and this is going to pump those numbers up. You can see maximum control in these locations. Some of these have really benefited. Alexandria, plus 10 control from the Cairo relative to what's going on, and this will be increased even more, so we might even see 100 control in Alexandria. Just kind of Manuf is in a much better location than Cairo for the purposes of the Delta, which is all we care about because we're just building tall in the Delta, right? This is going up to 97 control. This is without the discount from the Pound Lock Canals. 80% control, 86%. Over here is going to be benefiting a little bit less, but still going up to 86% relative to kind of the Cairo numbers. That's staying around the same. 92 staying around the same. Obviously, if it's around here, it's going to stay the same. It's going to dip a little bit in the back line, I think. This is going to 86 because it's not adjacent to Cairo anymore. This should be about the same. 93 staying at it, and this should be about the same as well. And so we will be lower in a couple locations around Cairo, but everywhere else is going to be getting like up to plus 10 additional control. In the case of Alexandria, really benefiting quite a lot. And so what this is going to do is for our heat map for our tax base, generally going to be a net positive, although Cairo is the biggest source of kind of our economic activities, so we probably want to kind of pick up the pace and build more things out of some of these locations. Don't want to go for the Carpenters Guild because this is going to involve a lot of lumber, although what we could do is we could import the lumber, especially because we're not going to be eating as much lumber costs now, generally speaking. We have, like, overproduced the lumber to keep the price collapse. But I think that a better thing that consumes lumber for us to produce would be something like paper, just in a general sense. We do have, in this location, though, inputs for wool, so putting an auto-expand on that would probably be solid enough, too. So we have 2 trade range techs coming up in the immediate future, but our kind of ratio that we're getting out of the trade, we're starting to squeeze, water from a stone a little bit here. 250 trade cap is giving us 160 trade profit, but this is increasing our tax base by helping us to pump up industries, and so it's not as bad as it looks. It's also increasing our tax base by providing us with more market access, so we actually are producing more goods. If we take a look at the trades, we can see that we are doing a ton also at a loss on the fine cloth, and so this is pulling the average down quite a bit, but it is allowing our fine cloth to be much more profitable. The price of fine cloth before was around 3 ducats, now it's up to 3.9, so this means all these places that are producing fine cloth are going to be in much better shape, and they will have much better bottom lines on the profit, and so this is going to be helping out on the tax base. I almost forgot, we actually have a way to maybe start to deal with the lack of burghers here. Hire courtier. This costs us devotion. We don't care about our devotion because we're getting it for free. So we will continue to hire courtier until we are able to spike someone from the burghers. Someone, anyone, this guy even, and we will put him in cabinet. And so now we can roll the burgher parliament, which will give us a plus 10 to plutocracy. So that works out fine enough, but we can continue to spam this. It's functionally free for us because, again, every single time that we go to below 20 devotion, we will say, oh no, what about this? The secularists among us, and then we will become yet again, plus 10 estate satisfaction. So also, you could just use this to artificially inflate your satisfaction, but the devotion just kicks back up, and then we can keep clicking the button over and over and over again. So we've urbanized virtually everything we want to urbanize, and our lumber price has pretty consistently collapsed. So we're just going to go ahead and automate RGO production, which will just make our lives overall easier. Basically, the automation will play whack-a-mole with any types of RGO in the Delta. Usually it takes about 6 months for them to decide what they want to build, or the AI in terms of its build cycle decides roughly every 6 months. So we won't necessarily see RGOs right away, but we will just see places like the legumes auto-expand out without us needing to kind of micromanage it, which at this point I think is fine. We don't want this to be turned on before we urbanize everything, because it's going to overbuild some of these RGOs when we know we're going to lose RGO max level, but at this point we're in pretty good shape to just let the automation take the wheel. So getting that additional tech for trade range, naval range, colonial range, we can now actually scout down here, which is nice. And this is our current trade range in terms of all the markets we can range, which is an enormous portion of the Earth. I think if we push naval, we'll actually start losing the Kiev market, the Nuremberg market, these types of things. If we take a look at how we're getting to some of these places, if we're getting through them through any type of land, us pushing naval would actually be negative on that front. So to that extent, maybe we would not even want to. Like, we can access the Delhi market, which is not typical with a naval push. So maybe we want to stay halfway in between on naval and land, because you really will lose access to a lot of this like overland stuff. You can see even we can range the Niani market here in Age 2 for all of their gold and this type of stuff. And so we're going to export, or continue to try and export a little bit more of this stuff, but expecting to see our trade kind of value pick up. It's already picked up a little bit. We don't have way more trade capacity. Got a little bit of a sticky kind of thing on that, or sticky key. But if we take a look at what we're getting in terms of how much we increased, I think we were getting around 160, 170 from 250 trade cap. I think that was the thing. Now we're getting 229 from 282 trade cap, and that's with a whole bunch of inefficient trades, and also the new trades haven't even kicked in yet. That was from the last rotation of gaining access to better markets. Now we're going to get another one. So after kind of playing with it and like kind of looking around on the markets, I think us actually not pushing naval will make a little bit more sense here, just staying in between the two. So I guess if we want to try and get some land progress somewhere, that'll be useful for us, which is just a very strange type of thing. But the thing is I think that this is the main reason why, I think the main reason land is bad, because land would help us with this proximity cost through land, which is mainly how we're gaining proximity. But the trade range used overseas, plus 50%, this is just backbreaking. And on the naval side, it's not as bad, because you could do a lot just overseas rather than through the land. But just kind of not losing out on trade range anywhere is maybe going to be a little bit better. Also, Timmy is popping the hell off. I don't think I've seen a Timurids stretch this far before, and they are doing really, really good. I mean, they're not coming through kind of a normal-looking route, like through Persia and Anatolia, but they're almost reaching the Ottomans from the other side, reaching down Wallachia and Bulgaria, so we'll see if they get to continue on, or if they just collapse. A little bit of a cleric heat map here. These guys do promote up quite a bit slower. Most of what we have going on, where we are going to have extra guys, is actually where we have universities. But this is going to double, basically, our potential clerics. The entire bonus we're getting from Spiritualist is going to be revisited here on this tech, which is why we're researching it, even though we're planning on going off of Theocracy. The tech is just so strong that just having it for the period of time in the interim is going to be worth it. We see that we get a new guy that we can maybe invite in, but he's not worth it. A bit unfortunate. We have our first chance at rolling the parliament that is going to be giving us access to, potentially. No, we don't get it. And also, we don't necessarily really want this. We could do this for the dev and pass it just for the dev alone, but very strange kind of situation where we actually don't really want to push naval, I think. I think pushing naval will hurt us more than it'll help us. So we might even do promote member of the clergy or sponsor noble arts. Sponsor noble arts is actually really nice because the satisfaction recovery on the nobles, very often they are the ones that are the most pissed. I think we're actually just going to conduct a census though. We could go after more wars and expand into Elodia, and this is probably okay. or would be reasonable here, but is not necessarily that big a priority. Also, the Ottomans did take over Byzantium, which is a little bit of an interesting one, because now the markets are all really messed up. We would want to move Bursa to Smyrna, I think, to try and fix things up a little bit, and also own Smyrna. But okay, we'll continue on and do our parliament. So this is going to be the last tech of this 50-year start. Counting house is going to be pretty nice, giving local crown power. But just to talk about like control, currently we are just getting an absolute enormous amount of control. Control gives a penalty to crown power. So all of these areas, local crown power, where basically all of our pops are, just basically having no penalty to crown power because everything's so tight and compact. And so as a result, even though we've given out every privilege in the book, and we also have some non-cabinet crown power guys, we don't have any crown power gov reforms, we're not even that deep into the game, and we don't even have counting house yet, we still have and have comfortably maintained around 30% crown power this entire game, which is really kind of helping us considering how big a proportion of our income is now coming from trade, which is really quite nice. We've also just killed all of our sliders though, all of our scaling sliders. So fort maintenance is basically nothing because we have all these discounts. We're exploring a little bit, but our costs are basically zilch with the exception of building maintenance, which is just providing stimulus for our market, right? This is really not that bad for us because this is allowing us to produce more cloth, jewelry, and paper more profitably. And so I think at the tax rate we have, we might be spinning it in and gaining more from this stimulus than we are losing, especially because prices in EU5 are a little bit stickier, or when you start to go into kind of below base prices, they're a little bit stickier than in Victoria 3. So a stimulus is worth more. But to that end, kind of for this last salvo here, we will slap down as many counting houses as we can. We've been kind of saving for that expenditure. I do believe it prioritizes kind of good areas because it tends to prioritize high pop areas, which is what we want to go for. We will continue. Actually, we'll double check that we have a price collapse before we spend all this money. Yeah, we do have price collapse here. And so we'll expand these out for kind of the coming into the home stretch here, where this should give us at least 1 or 2 more percent in here, maybe even 3, maybe 4, but probably not that much, and that will allow us to get a little bit more income from trade, which again is increasingly a larger portion of our income. So we are at 50 years here, but I think we'll just continue on just a little bit to let some of these counting houses finish up. Just a quick inventory, plus 300 on the margin. We have nearly 100 control in kind of all of these areas without even having full urbanization going on yet. We still have cities to upgrade. Market access is going to be 99.5 plus in most of this area, and so we are getting the full value out of all of these locations, which have enormous pop and are also going to have a pretty chunky dev. And this all combined is really, really kind of the basis of us just getting to play tall out of this one singular area on the map and be able to do a whole bunch of production, really set up for the future. But we don't have all of those really great production buildings until we start getting into the next age and the following one. We can take a look at some of our heat maps here. Our clerics are coming up. I'm pretty sure we have a ton of additional potential clerics in a lot of these areas that are not as lit up on the map. Yeah, you can see we can get an additional 50% here. The clerics are the slow ones to promote. You can see the burghers, the maximum is 7, 40, 41, and that's basically what we have. And the nobles are also incredibly slow to promote, but we don't have a ton of noble potentials because we didn't push aristocracy or we pushed off of it. And so we are going to be continuing to get more and more of these promotions, especially with the additional clerics that we have kind of coming in from the last tech that we had gotten, Servants of God, where this is giving us a plus 1,300. Wow. It's really giving us that much from the amount. Spiritualist is also giving us, yeah, so a similar amount. Both of these are giving us plus 1,300 potentials, and so the rest of it is either flat or from the base value. This is the tech that we had talked about, where it is going to be giving plus 20 possible clerics, but this is scaling per 1,000 pops, and so this is why in a place like Cairo, we have a total potential of 24,000 10,000. An additional 10,000 being kind of unlocked by the pop will take some time to promote up. So we're not done getting all of our stimulus kind of checks in. We also do have a bunch of burgers here, and we will want to kind of continue to push plutocracy as best as we can. I think that even to that end, it's maybe reasonable for us to revoke this. The tax efficiency is great, but just for the purposes of pushing plutocracy a little bit further, trying to get to that 95, trying to swap up onto a republic, this type of thing. Also, kind of a neat little thing with the burgers, where it looks like these are burgers that are migrating. At least to some extent. No, we don't see the burghers migrating. We see clerics, laborers, peasants migrating. But it would be nice if the places that have a lot of promotions migrated to areas of low promotions, just in general. But this urbanization unlocks all of these promotions, and we have libraries everywhere. Speaking of libraries, we could take a look at the literacy. We are up in the 30s everywhere, which is quite nice. We haven't even unlocked the cleric, extra literacy tech yet. We kind of pulled off of it. And so, in terms of areas of the map, we are in a really good shape on that front. I think moving forward, which we might not record another episode, but things that we would have going on is trying to push into the south, go after Alodia, and starting to micromanage our subjects a little bit more. We did add some buildings for them, like these market villages and this type of thing, but as we kind of finish expanding out what's possible here, and really just once we get all the urbanization for the maximum level of control, it's going to start getting to the point where we are going to start running out of things to invest in, and so investing in our subjects is going to be quite nice. We can also import stuff from them and just crush any of their urban buildings, and so we can feed ourselves a whole bunch of cotton and inputs and this type of thing, and just churn this in here. Also coming up is going to be eventually we will run out of building levels. As we continue to build here, utilize the economy, this eventually will be a very significant throttle. I don't know if it will happen in the next 50 years or sometime later down the line. We're not just expanding maximum as much as we can, although eventually we will be spinning up stuff. We're kind of throttled a little bit by construction speed, but eventually this will rear its ugly head, and we will go from being able to have 4 fully expanded industries, especially as you get more max levels, to 3 to 2, and then we will have to either pay the penalty of going over this or not. I think that next episode likely to also just stall out a little bit, probably go after a lot of market centers, maybe annex the person who's controlling Mecca so that we can control Mecca, annex, grab Dongola, grab Soba, grab Axum, these types of things would be in the cards for how we would look to be playing this. But I think that next episode just generally will be an eco stall out, because there's not a whole lot to do in terms of production buildings. We can, or probably will during that period, push capital economy. But there's kind of this economic stall out before you get to the age 3 buildings or the workshops on the paper and the printing press. And I think this is where our economy will really, really, really pop off. But this would not happen for like another 70 or 80 years, really. In terms of text that we have coming on up, we would have stuff like the literacy over here, kind of into that type of stuff, both on the nobles and on the clergy here. That would be fine enough to increase their bonuses. Then probably a little bit of a beeline towards cavalry, something like this, picking up the Royal Mamluks. We don't need barracks like anytime, or armories anytime in the near future, so that's much less of a priority. Rag paper would be a big one for us, allowing us to produce paper with cloth, allowing us to stimulate cloth a whole lot, to have less demand for other stuff. This would probably be the next tech that we research in here. And then we would be going for stuff like entry pot, considering we're controlling all of these markets. That would be helpful. Also allow us to have the markets be a little bit bigger, and we can manipulate kind of what's going on in there. Docks normally would be a mainstay for a normal Mamluks run, but for us, we don't really care that much. Rights to the nobility, probably a good next tech for us to pick up, just for the purposes of us being able to release marches that have rural noble authority. Not that we really need need this that much. The noble estate satisfaction equilibrium is kind of nice, but the fortification maintenance on our subjects is kind of going to be something that would maybe be a little bit interesting, especially on this guy here. Keen on seeing what exactly this guy does. It looks like he deleted a fort and he's now rebuilding the fort. He decided he wasn't making enough money before and is going after the fort. He's got like nothing going on, so that is a bit of a vibe, and so I wonder if he could even afford this, even with all of his discount. That's maybe a little bit of a curious thing. We have in the past just fed our marches gold so that they would just become an absolute like thorn in the side of the enemy, and so this is something that we could do as well. They're not our religion. We would want to enforce our religion because he is a bishopric. Ugh, yikes. But what we could do is, economically speaking, we can feed him economic support, and it would not take a lot for him to be okay holding on and maintaining forts at a much higher rate, which would make him much more obnoxious for if we fight the Ottomans. You know, he's just this place with a bunch of forts in his backline. He's going to split his army, and if we fight Serbia and Bulgaria, just leaping off point, found these marches with a whole bunch of forts to just be incredibly useful because the AI won't assault the forts, and because they get so much fort defense bonuses, especially if we're imparting those upon them by, you know, going garrison system ourselves and also pushing the value of defense of ourselves, so when we release our subjects they have that, just like absolutely monstrous. But that's kind of what things would be going on in the future. I think eventually we also would be squeezed on subject loyalty and not able to, you could see some of these guys are disloyal because of us pulling, or it's not even these guys we have pulled the trade from. This guy, we're receiving diverting trade. This is a little bit of a pain point, but eventually also, in the longer term, we would get colonization going, and so we would be able to pull from colonies in the New World. Not be able to colonize Africa really that well, because it's the same continent as us, so we can't make colonies there. But even Australia would be kind of in the cards for us, as well as India. We would take a location also from India and move our capital there temporarily to allow ourselves to build up plantations. Once we unlock plantations, you can't build them on your kind of home territory. It does have this requirement, is overseas, but by moving our capital, we would just be able to, no land connection to the capital and is on another continent. Oh, this is... I feel like the requirement's a little bit more strict than this, because we've seen this not quite work. But from India, which is decidedly in another continent, and we would not be connected to it at all, not even in an adjacent subcontinent, we would be able to, back home, build up plantations in the cotton, which would allow us to, instead of outputting like 10 cotton, we would be outputting like 60 to 80 cotton. And the same with the sugar as well, and eventually after Columbian exchange with the tobacco, so we would still be able to have a really strong power basis here, and a ton of RGOs, and that cotton would fuel our textile industry, allowing us to dump the price, allowing us to trade, which would kind of, to some degree, prevent other people from building it, so that we could trade even more and specialize in these things. You can see that we are exporting a ton of really low level fine cloth, so this is not a lot of trade capacity, but to a ton of different places, just trying to kind of get our foot in the door and prevent them from building it out. If we sort by the overall trade capacity moved, this is kind of what we're doing, where a lot of our trade capacity, and very profitable trades, mind you, are doing with the spices from the east, and this kind of pattern would continue, especially with cloves later on, as we would look to just have this really kind of tall area where we're funneling a lot of trade through, but eventually we would become capped on our trade capacity because we could not build any more marketplaces. We can still currently build more marketplaces, but eventually this would be something that is throttling us as well, and so we would be increasingly reliant on having colonies and diverting trade from the colonies and building trade in those colonies, which would work for some time, but this is kind of how things would cook up, I think, from us just only occupying this region and continuing to try and become a big power in the region. Also, incidentally, we were annexing this guy just so we could re-release some more efficient subjects rather than a disjointed subject here with a ton of provinces, so they're not even going to use dev province. I think we could cook up something a little bit better. But anyways, that's kind of, it's been a really long episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. I think I'll try and make these shorter because this has kind of gotten out of hand a little bit. But if you like the video, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, YouTube algorithm stuff, hit the notification bell, and other than all that, y'all have a good one. Ooh, wait, tax-based map mode. Yeah, looking pretty good. Oh, I thought people might also be curious about this. The amount of, or the value of our market is 1900. I'm pretty sure the next most valuable market will be Praha, which incidentally is one of the few we can't trade with, is 1200 in terms of value. And if we look at the ledger and we look at what's going on in terms of income, we are getting considerably more income than the next guy, which is Bohemia in France and the likes. And these guys have actually been expanding. We have not been expanding. Direct controlled land. We have been just staying in our area, staying in our very nice big tall Egypt, and also we don't have gold like Bohemia does, which it would be a decent shout, but over the longer term we will be able to get way more production by having way more pops, having way more future development with the farmlands, and having a decent amount of development right now. But right off the bat, just the RGOs crank up from Bohemia is going to be nicer, and just to show off their tax base. Their tax base doesn't even look that nice. Not like our tax base. Our tax base looks real nice.